Thank you.
Walking with your head in the stars, your eyes bedded in black and your soul full of scars. You are dreaming in your room when it's dark. Music on your mind and on your chin, there's a mark. You're a rebel, always a rebel. You are.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Glenn Pasch in the house.
How are you?
Great.
Fantastic music
Right?
there.
And pastries.
And pastries. You always have to bring pastries.
And you're a rebel. So,
I don't know about that, but
well, you're definitely a rebel.
A little bit.
You're definitely a rebel. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Recruiter Podcast and three-time returning champion of the world, Mr. Glenn Pasch.
I was going to bring one of my son's wrestling belts. I am the champ.
Dude, we should get a belt.
There you go.
We
I'm
should
the
get a
champ.
belt.
I have logged more minutes.
What do you think about a belt?
For what?
For guest of the year. We could have people vote. We could have the listeners vote.
Well, I just established that Glenn's our best guest
Oh,
because
yeah.
he brings
I
us
bring
stuff every
food.
time he comes.
I bring food.
point.
I'm bribing him with cupcakes for his children.
However, apparently you've been holding out on a bottle of bourbon that Kobe brought up for
Yeah.
me that I haven't drank yet. So
I know. I'm sorry.
that could
son.
change, Glenn.
Yeah.
That's all right. Hey,
It
listen.
could.
You brought
I've-
me. See, he brought me a nice bottle of wine too, though.
Who did?
He covers all
I
the
did.
bases.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he
you
covers
brought
all the
wine.
bases.
Yeah. Well, the bourbon might have cost more than the pastries on the wine, though. Although,
not about cost.
Trust me.
It's not about cost.
Probably not. Glenn's pretty good about.
I was told not to bring wine anymore, so
By who? By him?
I think
don't
Dad
listen
did.
to him. Right?
I want to know what happened to my bottle of bourbon. That's what I want to know.
It's sitting in that wine rack in my.
I was
Where wine should
just
be. I got
at
a bottle
your
of bourbon.
house
I
last
know. I forgot,
weekend.
man.
I could use that.
I am the youngest man in the car business, but for some reason I forget a few things from time to time.
There
so.
you go.
So yeah, I've been using this. I have this new skincare regime I'm on. It's well, I'm the youngest man in the car business. People
There
should
you
know
go.
this stuff. I
All
think it's
right.
very interesting to our audience.
I
They wanna look like
immediately
me.
went to the ranch and Bo making fun of his son for all his skincare
Right.
products. It's the first thing I thought of when you said that.
That's right.
I could think, what's his name? Sam, what's his face? Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know.
Cold. God damn it.
I love
That's
him.
First thing I thought of when you're talking about skincare.
The
But go
ra-
ahead, talk about your skincare products.
All right, have you ever? He's talking about The Ranch. It's on Netflix
You ever
with
seen The Ranch?
what's his
No.
name?
Sam Elliott and Ashton Kutcher. It's phenomenal.
It's
Okay.
really good binge watch.
That's good.
But so Joanna goes to the grocery store and she buys an aloe stem, like a aloe plant, you
Yeah.
know. And I just clip off a little bit of it and I put it on my face every morning, and that's what gives me my, boyish
Youthful
good look.
glow.
Right, it's a glow.
It is a glow.
It's a glow.
It's a hue.
Right, it's a hue.
Pinkish hue.
Hugh Jackson. So, thanks so much for coming back in here.
Sure.
Hey everybody, share this stuff out, go through the normal stuff. About 2 weeks from now, we are available. This podcast will be available on Google Play, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Oh, I miss anybody? Oh, wherever
All
you
those.
listen.
You're
to them.
everywhere.
Wherever.
You're everywhere now.
We're live to YouTube.
What?
This is so good. Do you want to plug the bakery again?
Yes.
There's
So
what
something else.
bakery?
this is in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, the Gingered Peach. Fantastic bakery. They do great stuff. I brought the cupcakes for your daughters because they liked them the last time as well.
No fruit punch.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Great people run it, and it is just jam-packed every day. Local business. They do a great job.
Awesome.
I'm impressed.
We're live to YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, AutoMax Recruiting. You'll know you're at the right place. There's a picture of a young kid screaming into a microphone. And we're also live to Facebook at the AutoMax Recruiting page. Feel free to share this out to all your friends, groups, and what have you. if you're watching on the replay, that's cool as well too. This thing's picking up a lot of steam. We're getting 3, 4, 5,000 views on these things. So and the audio is picking up as well. So. Want to start off with just a couple things here that we want to touch on, and then I got to thank a couple sponsors here. You just got back from an ADA finally, planes, trains, and automobiles.
There was, yes, full planes, trains, and automobiles, but
So
I'm home.
We want to talk about NADA.
Great.
Want to talk about a couple articles that I found that you wrote that I think are really fascinating. They were very interesting. I forwarded them to you. I don't know if you got a chance to take a peek at them, but
Read it this morning on the toilet.
attaboy.
There you go.
Nothing like pooping with Pasch.
There you
So,
go. That's going to be the name of the
Hold on.
podcast.
Hold
There
on.
you go. There you go.
Billion dollar idea.
There you
pooping
go.
with Pasch. I like it. Logs with Lockard. No. Okay.
Gee.
We'll stop, all right?
Please.
Okay. So,
I started it. I apologize.
You did.
Keeping it real over here.
all right. So we'll cover that. Everybody else in the world's talking about car gurus, so we might as well
Wade into
as
that
well,
just
too.
a touch.
And then something else that you and I talked about briefly outside, I want to make people aware is kind of pretty interesting that I want to talk about as well. I sent that to Troy this morning, and I think I CC'd you on it, Joe. Or I sent it to Troy last night. But at any rate, before we get into all that interesting stuff, I want to talk about a few people that pay for this thing. One is the number one recruiting company, automotive recruiting company in North America, probably the world, and that would be AutoMax Recruiting and Training. We have been in business for 22 plus years, have held over 18,000, probably close to 19,000, I guess, recruiting campaigns of all sizes and shapes. Every position in the dealership, we say porters to presidents. We've placed, I don't know, it's up 180,000 women and men in literally every position in an automobile dealership, and some things out of the automotive industry, which is kind of exciting for us.
Yeah, let's real quick. Let's expand on that because I know we're
Sure.
going to talk fixed stops a little bit today, and
Go.
I always love any opportunity to talk fixed stops. We're actually working with Aztec, which is a remote ADAS. They specialize in ADAS, but it's all remote technician software and service. So they have some guys in shops at various aftermarket and dealership service departments and body shops, collision centers around the country. They're actually international as well. But we're recruiting the remote guys for them. So they have guys with ADAS recalibration certifications sitting usually in their offices, but the ones that we're recruiting for are actually work from home opportunities. So
Right.
these guys get to work from home. They get out of the shop, and basically they put the little plug-in into the car. Read the diagnostic, and then they walk the techs that are on site through the repair. Really cool. So we've been doing a lot of that. We've been working with a couple different companies doing that. Lots of fixed ops recruiting. We do, despite our best efforts, apparently still a very poor job of letting people know how much we recruit for the service
It's unbelievable.
department.
Well, we spent 15 years branding ourselves as the new hire inexperienced
Sure.
salespeople thing, so it's a little hard. But frankly, now probably 60% of our business is the remote recruiting for all positions. So we appreciate our dealers' loyalty to us, and if you need help, you can reach out to AutoMax Recruiting. We're pretty much everywhere. It's hard to miss us. To the point of probably obnoxious, but we are everywhere. And I'd also like to thank a sponsor, one of our sponsors, on the cover of this cool book, and that would be the Rockstar Events, of which we are a sponsor of that as well. They're a sponsor of this show, Matt Kinning, and there's going to be a couple great speakers out there. One happens to be my brilliant, beautiful son, Joe Lockard,
Oh, thanks.
and also Andy Buck of AutoMax, one of our trainers, and a ton of other speakers, kind of a TED Talk thing, and that is March
16th.
March
15th and 16th. Cocktail hour Sunday. We're right on the Vegas Strip. Come on out, have some drinks, and then quick, like you said, Monday, one-day event, so you don't have to be
Yeah.
away. You want to come out for just the day. If you don't come out Sunday, just come out Monday, and like you said, it's all quick, little 15 to 18 minute how to squeeze as much information
Great.
as possible.
Yeah.
Speeches.
That'll be fun.
And I'm not sure. Matt might get pissed at me at this, but I think we still got some freebies left. AutoMax is
We
that
do,
is.
yes.
So if you want to take advantage of some comps, just reach out to Joe, Ernie, anybody at AutoMax, and we'll get you hooked up with that. But it's a great event. Rockstar, they've been great with us. Great sponsors. I wish PGG would come loose with some money with a sponsor for us and give us some money, but I don't know. Those guys are
You're
cheap,
big.
man.
They are. You go watch them.
Guys are cheap.
I don't know who PGG is, but boy,
Did I say that?
wish. Yeah, you did.
Yes, you did.
So I hope you find them someday.
That's why they're not sponsors.
Damn. That sucks. I can't believe.
Glenn,
I
what's the name of
screwed
your
that
company
up.
again?
AutoMax Recruiting.
Now you
International.
get
Yeah, boy.
now you get a free plug.
You'd have to take a cut and pay. Yeah, let's plug PCG
PCG Digital.
Digital. How long have you guys been in business? Not counting them out.
Brian probably started this almost 15 years ago, and I've been with him 12,
Is that right?
13. No, maybe 11 or 12. Maybe I think I officially joined around 2009-ish, but I was down. Yeah, because I left the last place that I was working in 2008.
Jeez.
So
Wow, time flies.
it has been. We're one of the few people that have been really in that whole, SEO space and digital consistently that long. It's funny. We see conferences that we used to host early on, way back there, and you see the list of all the sponsors, and you're going, well, they're not here.
Yeah,
They're not
sure.
here.
Yeah.
They're gone, or they got bought or whatever. And
I remember
We're
one I
chugging.
spoke at. We might have talked about this last time. Actually, you were on the show. One of the 45 times you've been on the show. What?
Stop here.
no, don't
Keep
stop.
going.
You gotta eat. You gotta
Son,
eat.
you're
I got
young.
the
You're in great
cupcakes.
shape.
Oh, you're gonna have the cupcakes later. I got you red velvet in there too. just in
I'm in
case.
trouble.
Oh,
Yeah.
I might grab one of those. The cupcakes your wife left me,
Good.
those should be illegal. Did she make those or are those bought?
Yeah, no.
Oh, my God. That was insane.
Just go baby.
They were filled cupcakes. There was filling inside. She made it was bad.
Yeah, but okay.
Yeah, it was bad.
So where were you? Just,
We
so-
have spoke about this. Can I stop you because it's
Yeah.
our third time through that he's here,
yeah.
and we have some regulars at this point, and
Yes.
and we don't want to lose them right now. With
No.
You've told the same damn story over and over. It's
Well, I'm not
it's
sure.
when Brian called you out in the back of the room at the boot camp, right?
No.
Okay, I'll let you go then.
Oh, see? Smart ass. But you might stop me halfway through this because you might
It's
have.
possible. We
Right,
talked
good.
about this when we first started doing the podcast. We said I'm going to have to catch myself from doing that because I've heard,
Lots of stories.
you've heard all your dad's stories by the time you hit a certain age, and then
Right.
it's just kind of over and over. But they're great. They're like, I watch other people listen to them. I'm like, oh, this was once upon a time interesting and revolutionary and
Yeah. Now it's just old.
and fun
now
anecdote.
it's
and then it's like
here he
I've
goes
heard
again.
it 10
This
times.
is eye roll.
But I apologize.
Are you going to talk about this again?
I apologize.
But
Maybe
no,
this is a
it
new
was
one.
it was NADA, and you guys you held your I don't know which one it was. Pollock ended up at the end of he gave the last keynote.
Okay.
But CBT was there interviewing people live, and it was in the hotel at the airport.
Yeah, that might have been.
And it was
that
NAD.
a DMSC, I think, or,
Yeah.
or one of those, or boot camps. Yeah,
Yeah, I spoke at that full room, and that was how long ago was that, man? Now, what is that?
I don't
6,
know.
7 years ago?
Yeah,
8
it probably
years ago?
has to be because if it was DMSC, we've been in Napa now for
Right.
at least 6 or 7 years.
Right.
So
Why'd you make that change?
Brian likes wine.
I was going to say because it's Napa.
Napa. It's location.
Great
you
ending
know.
question, Craig.
But I think we were making a decision to try to have one location that people would. It was like an anchor instead of. Well, now we're going to be in Orlando. Now we're going to be in
Gotcha.
that, and you're always trying to
That's a good idea.
find a location.
Yeah.
So we started. That's why the other one that we do in the fall is in Florida. Because if you have it on the West Coast, well, East Coast doesn't want to fly over there. And if you have it on the East Coast,
Right.
West Coast doesn't want to come over here. So we figure we have our 2 anchors in May and November. And then throughout the year, we do smaller ones. We're doing one in March on fixed ops in Florida, a 1-day type of a thing. So that gives us some
what's the dates?
flexibility. March, I think it's March 18th. It's 1 day.
Okay.
Just focus solely on fixed ops and fixed ops marketing because Brian and I have been really talking about it, but it seems that everybody's starting to realize, especially with the new changes for Google My Business, where you can have a service listing now and you can start, if you do it correctly over time, you as a dealer now will be able to compete in searches for the services that you had that you weren't weren't visible for.
Was just talking about this with our marketing director, and I never thought about it before. And I mean, dealerships aren't even close when you Google vehicle repair or any specific repair, not even close.
Well, because back early on, you had Google My Business and everybody tried to play the game, right? We were trying to, because I don't think Google figured it out. So it's not as if the dealers were not doing something, but you tried to do it where dealers would have, Suite B, and you'd put a service listing. Or if you had a row, like your dealership was, say, 4000 Main Street to 4010 Main Street, you were like 4008, yeah, service. But it wasn't registered anywhere else. And so there was always problems. And so in your listing, you can have 10 categories, but when you finish going through most of your, sales side, so if you were even if you're a single brand, but let's say you're a Ford dealer, you're doing Ford dealer, car dealer, used car dealer, truck dealer, used truck dealer, right? You're up to 5 already.
Yeah,
and then,
sure.
then by the time you say, well, I'm doing this, maybe you had 1 or 2 slots for that. So you did auto repair shop and maybe oil change. So you couldn't compete because your listing wasn't telling
Spread it
Google,
too
this is
thin,
what I'd
right.
like to see. Now you can have 9 categories for sales. You can create a separate service listing. So now you can have 10 categories for that. You can build a parts listing. If your dealership has a quick lube, you can build a listing. If you happen to have a rental counter, you can build a listing. So now we've done it for our dealers, and it takes about 60 days because you have to really merchandise it and you have to make sure. But you can really, it's really super rich now what they're trying to do with Google My Business. And we're seeing now that they're starting to show up in searches
I was going to say
thousands of times.
I see it before the dealership now. I'll just to find information when I'm researching a new client, and the service page comes up before the delership page.
Well, so here's a glitch. So we're going to give people a little tip. For some reason, when you build these 2 listings, right? If you have your sales listing and it just says, Joe's Toyota. Over here you have Joe's Toyota Service Center. For some reason, in certain instances, when I just type in Joe's Toyota, because either this is a newer listing or it's still confused, that service listing is going to show up if I'm just looking for the dealership.
Yeah.
So in the short term, until Google figures it out, some of what we've been suggesting is take your name out and just say Toyota Service Center, and it'll show up in that area, even if they type your name, Joe's Toyota, because you're in that
so the
area.
actual name of the business, so it doesn't affect the SEO, but
No, it's just it's a
the
glitch
page
right
will
now.
show-
Yeah, it's a glitch right now for
Okay.
some reason. It doesn't happen for everybody.
Yeah.
It happened, and then I do it again, and it doesn't show up. Or if I'm looking at 10 dealers, it happens to 2 and not to 8, and there's
Okay.
no rhyme or reason. But it is a glitch that's I think they're addressing.
interesting.
So, but yeah, in terms of that, it's really valuable because now when you're typing in brake repair, all of a sudden the dealership is showing up. And more importantly, the dealers have such volume. If you look at the competitors, you go look at Bob's Brake Job or Meineke, all they don't have tons of reviews.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a couple hundred, if that.
Right.
A lot of them have 30, 20, right? A dealer could have 300 reviews in the course of a couple months, and they could just dominate. They
Right.
could dominate that over time. And so it's a huge opportunity, and that's why we decided to have this fixed ops 1-day event because and Owen Moon, Fixed Ops Digital, is a sponsor. We're talking to someone else who wants to be a sponsor. And we're going to probably have about 60, 70 people. But we were like, get your Fixed Ops people out there because those folks need to leverage it. They should be marketing it. And I think talking about those articles, I was really just, the more I keep going back and working with dealers and think about the logic of you're missing out. The service is where you're going to retain your customers. That's where your focus should be, on retaining my customers. Instead of spending, yes, you want to spend money on marketing for your dealership. The problem is, you're going to high five and say, man, we just got to, we got all these new customers this month, right? And you could say, oh, great, you got 10, 15% new customers. Yeah, but you let 30 go out the back because you're not retaining them in service.
Right.
So all you did was you took Joe's 10, 15% that he let go out his back door. You just took 10, right? So my market share never increases.
Right.
Yeah.
I just shuffle the decks on the, the Titanic.
What retention? 20%? Is that the retention number we're dealing with right now? Is that right, or what do you
It
think?
depends how you measure. I know some of the manufacturers want, 70% of the people to service twice in their first year. Now, I know some manufacturers say you have to have, I think it's 25%, maybe 30% of all of your customers stay with you, like service at least once a year for 7 years, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that I just think that, you're always going to have people, if you do a really good job marketing, you're going to pull people who don't live by you. And so you're going to lose that service. I come over an hour, buy my car. I buy my car at work. Or by a dealership by work. I'm not going to service there. I'm going to service close to my house.
Right. We talked about this last time. I never thought of that because I'm driving to New Jersey to get my car, and I live in Delaware now.
Right.
Same dealership.
So I just look at it and say, okay, that's good. You're if you say 20% of my people or 15% of the people I sell, I'm never going to get.
Yeah.
Just never going to get because they're at home. That's okay. Focus on those other folks. And I don't think I think the dealers that do a really good job have thought out a process where they are saying, you're a valuable customer. The mentality is I'm going to hold on to you long term. So I don't need to bang you up today.
Right.
Right. So it's if you turn down service, that's okay. The assumption is you're coming back. So I need a process to remind you to get you back in here. And that should be the job of services. If I'm a salesperson, I hand you Craig, I sell Craig a car, I hand him to you. Your job for the next 3 years is to hold on to him and make him love this dealership, and we take care of this person. Every time he comes in, we recognize how great he is, and then when he's ready, you hand him back to me.
Right.
And we hold on to those folks versus I sold, goodbye.
Right. Changes the whole philosophy. So you're not worried about upselling and upselling and upselling. You're worried about.
Well, that was the one point of the article, is thinking more of a long-term value. Right. Do we put a long-term value? Do I have, even if I don't have programs, right? If you think of airlines, right? You have all those thresholds. You're a gold, silver, platinum, whatever. Even if you don't announce that out to somebody, right? Because somebody will say, well, who cares? Okay. Internally, you should still have that.
Right.
So if I know Craig is a high valued customer, he's here, always good. Why I need to make sure there's a flag somewhere that when Craig schedules his service and he's coming in, somebody goes and greets him. Somebody makes a big deal about the fact that Craig's here. Make Craig feel like we remember him versus turning him over to brand new rookie advisor who doesn't just, this person's just like anybody. No, this person, I want to go over and talk to them. I want about it. On top of the other piece was saying, well, why are we not holding every service advisor to a retention score, right? So if I give you 100 people, how many people are you holding on to?
Right.
I don't care what your ROs are. That's fine. That's one piece. But if you're just pushing everybody out the door, why are we not inspecting that?
Right, and like you said in the article, and I just pulled it up too, and there's a lot. There's so many examples here. Like we like Men's Warehouse, right?
Right.
But Men's Warehouse, it's kind of like a drug. I mean, they're cocaine dealers. It's like, you buy something from them, bam, you get the money back.
Free stuff.
Sure.
Like, they literally force you to go spend money that you weren't normally going to spend. Typically, Kohl's dollars or whatever it is.
Sure, Nordstrom Rack has the
Right.
same thing. You earn
Right.
money and they send you a check, or even your credit cards, like the Banana
Right.
Republic credit card. If
Right.
you're using the card, all of a sudden here's
Right.
$100 voucher.
Right. Yeah,
and
right.
you're going,
That's strong.
That's free money. I
Right.
go in, but the odds are they're
Right.
saying you're going to spend that $100 because it's
Plus.
free, and then you're going to throw a little something
Right.
else on top.
Well,
of
like
it.
you said in the article as well, and you guys should. What's that thing titled?
Yeah, if you
Why
go to
need-
if you go to pcgdigital.com on the blog, there's the 2 articles.
why you need a long-term value metric for fixed operations. So, and I think somewhere in there you said, I don't know what the figure was, $15 oil change coupon or whatever it is. It's like, why bother, right? I mean, it's like that doesn't make any sense. But I think, did I read this right or remember it right? Like a tiered system,
Right. Or I said,
which makes sense.
I said if you, excuse me, if you rewarded people, right, along those lines, if you spend money, you get points, right? So why wouldn't you say if I'm spending money every single time I go there, I'm building up some point value that could convert into dollars, right? So maybe all of a sudden, not a $15 coupon. Hey, here's $100 towards your next service, whatever your service is. I don't really care. Like, could you use it towards the price of a car?
right?
Why wouldn't you?
Or if I could, transferable to a family member or friend as well would be real. I think would really be jet fueling that thing, man.
And I think that the problem has been is that this concept of loyalty programs is the philosophy of I don't think you're going to be here. So why should I invest in a loyalty program where no one's going to really have a loyalty program? I just don't think
Who's not going to be here?
Well, the customer, like the dealer, a lot of dealers who say it didn't work. It's a mentality of, well, I'm going to get you now, and well, you're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. That will happen if you think that way, right?
Right. But if we're redoing our service survey, right? Right now, we're getting people to fill it out. I think we have a couple hundred. Our goal is to get over 1,000 by the time this event in March so we can share updated results. But we're asking people who are not in the industry, do you service your car at a dealership or not? Why? Why not? Why do you go to independent versus this? What would you go to a dealership for? What would you tell them if you could make it better? And a bunch of other questions. What's the best way to follow up with you? And would you like a loyalty program? Most of the time when you talked about services, to your point about oil changes and tires in their mind are commodities.
Right.
I can get them anywhere. So the key is value and speed, and I'll go to you. Right. So, which is why a lot of dealers now have pivoted to the quick lubes. They realize that people don't have time to go in because there's that fear of if I go in for an oil change and you get me up on the lift, I'm done. Yeah, it's going to be like surprise.
Right.
Versus all I'm doing is outside, roll it up onto a ramp, oil change. Here you go, goodbye.
Right.
All of them customers said I would go to the dealership for the bigger services. Why?
Right.
Because you have the parts. You have the training.
Right.
You increase or maintain the value of my car. Once dealers understand that, I had a great conversation with a gentleman who runs a company called Dealer Wing yesterday. And they do a lot of data cleansing for you and direct mail pieces and emails. But as he said, we basically help you take your data and put it into 4 buckets. And then targeted messages for you where you are in your journey, right? So how many times do you get service? I hear it when I go. Oh, well, we just run a service email blast every week to everybody, right? Or a sale. So I send you an email, oh, here's your voucher for a tire sale. And you just bought a car 6 months ago. Right. Now, when I say, why are you sending it to him? The answer is, well, he might know somebody who wants tires. I'm going, no. He's going, you don't understand me. Delete.
Right.
Versus
unsubscribe.
I send the tire to, well, when do tires need to be done? Might you say, well, probably 30,000 miles. I'd start getting it in people's mind. Great. So then go through your database.
Right.
Who's at 30,000?
Right.
Who's at
25,000.
Who's at 60 or whatever variable? And then they get that message.
Right.
And then we give you a different message, and we give you a different message to allow people through the life cycle of that. But again, it's targeted, relevant to me at the time.
Right. Okay, so you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that that's the best way to do it. Why are dealers not doing that? The majority of dealers, because dealers are, obviously, but why are the majority not doing that?
I think it's a combination of fixed ops for a long time has been the secondary focus in a dealership.
Yeah.
The manufacturer, I'm not an expert on what manufacturers do or don't.
Well, then get out. I mean,
No, meaning that I don't know. Listen, I brought you stuff. This
I know.
allows a lot of leeway.
I know. I'm sorry. But you did grab my ass during the picture.
I did, and it was bony.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that service lanes are busy. They're filled.
They are.
Right? So you have
Right.
warranty work, you have other things coming in. I think some of the companies that in the past have service with that, I think they're getting better now with this concept for dealer wing, where we bucket the data versus and fighting back with the dealers of not going, well, I'm just going to blast everybody.
Right.
To understand that, because in the past you could do that and you'd get something back.
Right.
And a lot of what
Right,
we're
right,
seeing
right,
now with metrics and tracking from digital to whatever, dealers are starting to, the more progressive dealers that we talk to are starting to understand not what I'm getting, that's part of it,
Right.
but potentially what I'm losing. Right. So if I track now, say, a trade-in tool,
Right.
and I get 50 leads, and I'm like, I got 50 leads, and I
Right.
paid X, and look
Yeah.
at this, is awesome.
Right.
But when you
But-
tag it, now all of a sudden you realize that, well, 1,000 people started it, and only 50 went through. I'm bothering. Something happened with these other ones. That's as valuable. So
Yeah.
same thing.
Right.
I can blast my CRM,
Right.
and I got a bunch of people in, but how many people did I not get, or I drove away?
Yeah.
Sort of like you were saying with your doctor.
Yeah.
There's a point where too much.
Right.
Or it's not relevant to me, and the default in my brain is they don't understand me, so goodbye.
Yeah. Who would? So you have a couple choices. Our outside company can do this for you. Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's possible, right? But someone in the dealership needs to be
Well, let me
picked out for that task, or no?
let me
What?
let me jump in. I'll use ourselves as an example because we suck at this. I'm just going to throw it right out there. And you've talked about it, and I started reading the email, and I assume that's why you sent it to me, because
Yeah.
you've been wanting to do a rewards program for a while, and the internal pushback has been a lot of what you said is, does anyone really care? But like you said, it's not so much about how you construct it, it's just the concept of tiering your customers and understanding that certain customers add more value and certain customers are at different places in their relationship with you, and tailoring the message to those different tiers so that it's relevant. So it's internally for us, I think it's a time thing. It's like you said, it's a pain in the butt to organize that, to track it. Unless you have another company doing it, an outside company doing it, it's a challenge to do.
It is a challenge. So to your point is, inside the dealership, people are busy doing other things.
Right.
So unless you have someone who's focused completely on the marketing,
Right.
internally, someone who says, I own this, doesn't mean they have to do it. They can be the point person to communicate with the vendor.
Right.
But I mean, it's usually done, to your point, either not done or done in bulk because it saves time.
Right.
I don't have time. So the fixed ops manager is trying to run that department, and it's crazy to say, hey, you got to carve out time to think up with marketing strategy, versus if somebody who was the point person could grab 5 minutes and say, what are we focusing on this month?
Yeah.
This, I'll take care of the rest.
Right.
Part of it is your data clean?
Right.
Can I really track the tool? Can I use
Right.
the tool
Tracking
that I'm
the
using?
tool.
Can I pull it out simply and easily? And how do I measure it? So a lot of it is potentially investing, front-loading this with someone to come in and do a data cleanse to be able to manage it further. But it's a job.
Right.
It is a job no different than
Right.
having a marketing manager talking to an agency, whoever it would be, about your pay-per-click and your social media and my website. And
Well, if you tied someone's income to it, I guess it'd be more likely to get done too. So.
well, again, it's more giving. I'm not even so worried about that, because that's a default of a lot of people. Well, if I tie their pay to it, then they're going to, and that works and it doesn't work. I've seen it blown up more times than not. It's more the fact of what should be happening. What is this job? Am I hiring the right person for this job? And then I'm holding them accountable to the job. That's a different story, but it is super important that all the money that they're spending in marketing, right? I had a conversation with a dealer yesterday, and I was looking at their website, and I was like, what? They bought a dealership from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
They closed on it last fall.
Mm-hmm.
They supposedly have somebody helping them with their marketing, looking. I found a page with the name of the other dealer still on it.
Whoa.
Wow.
And I was like, what's this? He goes, oh, something. And so my point is that a lot of dealers are just busy this is not their wheelhouse. So you have to get a partner in an agency, whoever that is,
Right.
that is going to have your back, who's going to be looking at this stuff, paying attention to it. They need somebody on the other end who can communicate. Like for us, we look for someone on their side that can just give us the lay of the land. Like, where are the towns that you really want to target? What products and services are your focus over the next 90 days? You know, what are we trying to accomplish so we can communicate? But, you know, this guy sort of knew, but he's the same thing. I'm just trying to get going here.
Well, we have a lot of people on the ground in a dealership that could assist in this because really, if you had the salespeople talking about it at point of sale, hey, you know, and part of buying a car here at Amazing Motors is our rewards program in our,
of course,
in our service facility. The BDC absolutely would have to be tuned in on this, right?
Well, I would say you'd have to, again, like anything, it's not that, I don't want to say it's not difficult.
Yeah.
My point is, we were out at a meeting, and you know, it was manufacturers and dealers, and they were talking about you know, digital retailing and all of this, and I said everybody's going about it the wrong way, in my opinion. It's top down. We're trying to force something down versus the reverse engineering. What's the experience that I want my customers to feel when they leave? We've talked about this before, going to a restaurant, you know. We want them to go out and go, that was a great experience. Yeah, the food's good, but it was more about how I felt. So same thing. If you're going to have this program, absolutely, you have to map it out.
Right.
What is it? What's the value of it? And then we have to map it out and say, how do we communicate this to our customers online, in the store, at whatever touch points? Do we have marketing in the store, like collateral that talks about it? Is there maybe a separate rug that says, you know, this is the, you know, Marriott, and, you know, if you fly Delta, I always use Delta because they're funny as hell when they have that rug, and then after the first two groups go, they lock it.
Right.
And I'm going, wow, we can't touch the rug. And they're like, no, you have to walk around the rug. Don't touch the rug. And I'm going, but I want to walk on the rug. Right. But if you had that there, and then that sparks communication in the dealership, we're like, what's that? Oh, that's our rewards program, or that's this program, or that's this. And people go, oh, tell me more. So you're right. But it has to be thought out.
Right.
And mapped out and sort of put into place at all these touch points to have it happen, or else it's an idea and then it all falls on one department to do it, and everyone else is, well, that's not my job.
And then it is just a rewards number and an email of, hey, you're 10 points away from silver. Well, it's like, well, what do I get at silver?
Right,
what does that mean?
Or text or what have you. Yeah, and the F&I office, I'm almost thinking like, you know, almost a separate form to opt into our rewards program, sign here. Right. And make it a big deal.
And even if you don't, like I said, I know that a lot of times dealers will say, well, I don't want to do the program, meaning that whole thing. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm more internally, do you know who your high value customers are? I'm more worried about that.
Right.
Like if you don't want to have the rewards, and you don't want to have this because you say it doesn't work or people aren't, well, at least find a way to understand that Joe is in here 3 times a year, and he spends this amount of money, and he's referred people to us, and he's bought a couple cars from us. Like, everybody should know when Joe's scheduled, everybody makes it a big deal that Joe's here. Right? That's what I'm saying, more than does a program work or not. I've seen them work. I've seen them not work. It's more internally, do you know who the customers are that are valuable to your business, and do you make a big deal about it when they're there?
Yeah, I know. It's like, again, just taking it inside here to AutoMax, it's like it drives us crazy because, you know, I mean, we have customers who have been with us literally 20 years. I mean, like 20 years, like legit spent a lot of money with us, you know, and we love you. But it's like, it's so half-assed on our part. It's like, oh shit, you know, we gotta find out where they eat. Let's buy them a nice
Well,
dinner.
that's the point.
And
Is
it's
then
like,
you have to schedule that. We
Yeah,
do that sometimes
yeah.
at the holidays. A lot of people do that. Like,
Right.
let's send our top customers
Right.
something, right?
Right,
Or
yeah.
people who have had an impact.
Right.
But if you said to yourself, quarterly, I'm just sending a thank you card. Like, that's it. I mean, just like we've always said, the birthday cards, or just out of the blue, not tied around a holiday. But if you all of a sudden said, I know this person,
Right.
this dealership's been really good to us. What a surprise it would be
Right.
that they just opened up their thing and here's a gift card, an Amex gift card.
Right.
Go enjoy
Right.
dinner on us.
We used to have an AutoMax card. Were you with the company then, Joe, or was that prior? Was that pre-Joe?
AutoMax gift card?
Yeah, we had an AutoMax Visa card that we would send out.
So my point is, if you had that, to your point is, and it does happen. We all do it. We're just as guilty too. It's, we've done a really good job, and Denise, who's been heading up the day-to-day of the agency over this last year, has done such a really great job of retaining, having our customers. We did a big audit at the end of the year, she and I, looking at all of our processes. Like, are we delivering on what we say we're delivering, and really on the experience that they're getting? Are we, and internally, are we also stepping on ourselves at times in interdepartment type of thing? Even though we're small, you have different departments, and she's done a great job. So it is that concept of retaining your customers while getting new customers. Well, how can you show appreciation at just odd times? I just sometimes
Right.
call up and just say, hey, hi, how are you? And that, even the fact that they say, wow, I know you're busy. The fact that you called, just ask how it's going, anything you need, what's going on,
Yeah.
or the fact that they can call you.
Right.
They feel comfortable. Somebody called me up with a couple things that have been going on in the news. They're like, "What's this about?" And or hey, I was at NADA. I saw this new product. What do you think? Just having that is a resource. So again, we all could do better about it. But I think for dealers, again, we're constantly spinning. We need more and more and more. What can we do to retain and service and fixed ops? That's your key. If you can really retain your customers, think ahead, reach out to them ahead of time before they need the service, before they think of anything, it pops on my phone, it's time for this, and you're like, okay. And then the experience is fast, it's easy, I feel appreciated. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And we have to do something. The flip in the sales cycle is there somewhere in the future. Did you guys read today? China is down 82% car sales because of the coronavirus. 82%.
No, I didn't know that.
82% for January. Huge.
Well,
That's
because
a
nobody's
big-
going into crowds.
No,
That's
they're staying at home. But so it's so critical to have your fixed ops at whatever percent of absorption and so forth, and retaining those customers and spinning them back into long-term customers into sales.
Excuse me.
The service advisor in a dealership is a salesperson, which is another article that you wrote, and should be, right? Yes.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. And I want to go in a different direction. I'll come back to it. But that service advisor, they are literally talking to, 10 times as many people in a day than a salesperson on the floor, I guess?
I don't know
probably.
if they're talking what we've usually the numbers are that they service or sell, so to speak, 7 times, 10 times the number of people that will buy a car. So,
Right.
if you sell 100 cars, you're probably doing 700 or more ROs a month, right? Or more. We've seen it up as high as 15.
Okay.
So I think the service advisors just touch more people.
Right.
Especially with service, solving that problem for them in a very speedy way and that everybody feels good about. I think it's super important. And so the point with sales was not so much I need them to sell more. I think they
Right.
do a fine job selling, ROs, all the
Yeah,
rest. It's
yeah.
more this concept of in sales or in a BDC, I hold you to an appointment ratio. You're a salesperson, I hold you to a closing ratio, right? I was saying, well, why aren't we holding them to a retention score, or a customer retention score? Where, as I said earlier, if I give Joe this month 100 people and he's dealt with 100 people, how many of them come back a second time because of Joe?
Right. I was going to say, come back and ask for me.
Well, I think they should be assigned to you. See, this is the other thing. A lot of times where
it's just who's up and the
Right.
Well, there's two things. It can be. I was talking with Clint Burns from the Next Up. Their new product called, I think it's called, I hope I get it right, Maintain. They're taking that, for the. Are you familiar with the Next Up?
Oh yeah, very much.
Right. So they're taking that managed floor system from sales and putting it in service. So if you're the Next Up as an advisor, if I come in, what he said he saw a lot was someone would come in for whatever service it was. They didn't have an appointment, and Craig's up and say, hey, I got a customer over here. Well, what are they here for? Well, I think they're just here for no, I'm busy. And then so it became
Nobody wanted it.
Right, where he's saying, no, you're the Next Up. Now, also then, if you're slow and we don't have, well, then what else could they be doing? They could be following up to make the calls to say, how was your service, right?
Yep.
So I think that I think people like to build a relationship with someone.
Sure.
Like we go to my wife, we've had an Acura now for, God, a long time. And since we moved into the Lawrenceville area, there is Acura of Princeton, and that's where we service our vehicles. And there's a gentleman named Brian who became our advisor, our service advisor, and he's always our advisor.
Right.
And she likes dealing with him, one, because they joke, they both are Star Wars geeks, so they talk about that. But the mere fact of he goes out of his way to say when she needs a loaner, do you need a car or do you need an SUV today? And always, and if we've built up a trust in the fact of if he says you need this service, she can say, well, no, I don't want to do that now. I don't have time. And that's fine. We could do it in a month, but you're going to need it. And she goes, okay, Brian said we need this. We have to do this. She's built up a relationship with Brian. So hence the store. So I think the more that you can build up a relationship with your service advisor, it builds trust. And then it's your responsibility using the technology or however you want to have it, if it's a service BDC or whatever. When it's time for my next service, you should be reaching out to me ahead of time, right? Hey, by the way, based on last time you were here, based on your driving habits, the light's probably going to click on in a minute saying schedule your service, or it's time for your oil change, or it's time for a tire rotation. Just let me know. I'll get you in. Or, hey, here's a link to our service schedule. Just schedule it. I'll know you're here. I'll be here. Right. I think that you retain more when you build a relationship with a person, because then the person is the building. You don't build a relationship with the building, right? And if I'm just passed off to a million different people, how important am I?
Right.
How do you know me, right? Then you got to trust that your processes are in place, that if Glenn's coming in today, that the new service advisor is going to read my notes and go through and see all the times I've been here versus, oh, you're here for an oil change in and out, whatever. And that goes back to that special treatment of understanding who you are. But with this service advisor, Brian, and my wife, they joke, have you seen the new Star Wars is coming out? What did you think about it, right? They talk about a lot more around it, and that breeds comfort in why I'm here. And if I need to spend money, I still may not go like, ooh, I got to spend that money. That's expensive. But it's necessary, or else they wouldn't be bringing it up, because they know you're going to be coming back you're here.
Right.
You're my customer versus I got one shot at you, right? I always use the analogy of NADA. Dealers turn their badges over after the first 20 minutes because I'm only going to see you one time. Here's my pitch. And NADA this year was even worse. Yeah. People just walking. Literally, I was walking by a dealer, and a person said, "Hi, how are you? And how's your DMS or whatever system they're selling?" He goes, "No, I'm good, whatever." And just kept following him down the thing. No, I mean, have you really looked at this stuff? And the guy's like, "No, I'm good." Well, come on over here, and we have a great prize if you just. And I was thinking, wow, literally, I'm halfway down the aisle, and this person's chasing you.
Yeah, I want to delve deep into that here in a minute, but I want to finish up with kind of this stuff first. So, You mentioned next up, and I saw something. Actually, I think Matt shared this on
Yeah, he did.
on LinkedIn about Best Buy, your dealership, and automotive hiring issues, which I think I sent to you and Ernie as well. It's a really good article, about turnover and about they took this. They took a situation of this young college kid that got a job at Best Buy, which I didn't know this, but it's kind of in theory, kind of a pretty sweet deal for younger people or people switching careers or so forth to get a shot at Best Buy. But what's happening is it's so weird to read this story. I'll forward it to you. Did you see this by any chance?
I think I saw it, but I didn't get a chance. Yeah, I just didn't get a chance to read it.
Really good, dude. I'll send it to you. But it's really interesting where Best Buy, this situation, this particular person at Best Buy was not unlike what happens at a dealership. The greeters were turning over all the big ticket potential purchases to the vets on the floor.
Yep.
So the new hires were getting all their garbage. Then they'd get TO'd and split deal. It was like reading.
Right.
You could have just
insert dealership.
Yeah, and it was very, very, very interesting. But so I'll send that to you.
Great.
But so service advisors. Farm system, do we hire inexperience, spend the money, the time, effort, train them? Do we steal experienced out of wherever, Pep Boys, another dealership, what have you? Ongoing training. Because, the opportunity with a top-notch professional service advisor is through the roof, right? It's like... that's the touch point. That's to the customer, to the consumer. That's the dealership at that point. Where do we go there? How do we recruit that person? What do we look for? What do we?
You have to. Well,
what's our end game with that person?
I think the words you just said. It's your end game. Meaning, what do I want the experience to be? Right. Forget the people.
Right.
People's the last thing.
Okay.
If I say, how do I want the experience to be? Then, if I say, well, I want it to be fast, and I want the people to be greeted, and I want and they walk away going, that was fast, that was easy, boy, they took care of me, and blah, blah. Then you have to shut your eyes and say, what does that look like? What do my people have to physically do to generate those feelings? Then you build your processes to say, okay, and then you say, well, then what type of people fit this bill, and how am I going to train them short-term, long-term, coach, and develop them? Now, someone may turn around and say, I want that experience, but I don't have time to train people from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you say, I got to go out and find somebody with experience. Now, though, you have to make sure then when that experienced person comes here that they funnel into your system.
Yep.
Or else you have your version of what you did at Pep Boys and your version at Dealership B, and then it's just chaos, right? I always go back, again, as you know, I came from restaurants. Any restaurant, they bring in people. They don't say whatever you did at Applebee's is fine over here. They're like, this is the way we work here.
Right.
As long as you do that, then taking experienced people, that's fine. It would be the same thing for you guys with your trainers. Do I bring somebody from scratch, or do I need somebody who has experience? And then we're going to train them how we do it, but they got to have this knowledge, right? I had that conversation with the gentleman at Dealer Wing. I saw David Lewis. And he's a trainer. I saw him out at NADA, and he was saying the same thing. Hard to find people. I need people who have experience. I need the people who were the general managers, or they were the general sales. I don't have time to, green peas in my business can't sit across from a dealer and have, right? Exactly. But I think that if you said to yourself, I need to open up, I don't want the people who have bad habits. That's fine. Then you can say, I need people who are very good with computers. I have to have people who like cars, good personality, teachable, coachable. Great. Now I can go hire the people at Best Buy. I can go hire the person who is a server at a restaurant because they're multitasking a million miles an hour. But you got to be willing to say they can't talk to customers for a month.
That's exactly right.
Right, you just got to bite that bullet. Even with salespeople, if it was mine in perfect world, they wouldn't talk to a customer for a month.
I agree 100%.
I'd have them in the BDC or whoever's handling
Yes.
internet first for a week to 2 weeks, and
Yep.
let them handle leads on the phone and understand that. Then go shadow somebody,
Yep.
right, and then have them work that and then have somebody follow them while they're doing it, right? That if you really want to do it, that's what you have to do versus, hey, I just
Go get them, Swerve.
And
yeah.
I can tell you from our experience, there's not a ton of dealerships that are doing it that way in regard to service advisors. We've had
don't think so.
one client, I think, in the past year, and we do offer that service if anybody is interested. Lene Tarver, who was on the show a few weeks ago, does service advisor training campaigns for us. Same setup as our sales campaigns, but training for service advisor.
Right.
Because this is a forward-thinking dealer. He understands the type of system he wants in place, like you said, and he knows that instead of just trying to go out and grab people who have been service advisors before, he's looking to identify a type of person and then train them to fit his system,
Right.
to understand his process. Because, taking time out of the equation, that's the easy part. You can't just, make a person be a good person, make them
Right.
a pleasant person to be around, or somebody who's has emotional intelligence and likes speaking to the public. It's funny you mentioned two things that we find are kind of tough to marry when we're recruiting technicians, and that's like cars, know a lot about cars, and good with the general public. I think a lot of times it's tough to marry those two things. A lot of the technicians that we talk to, and the really highly skilled technicians, they're lacking in people skills, to put it nicely.
But that's fine. But to me, I don't really necessarily need them. Like a tech,
Yeah.
they don't need to talk to the customers.
No. I'm just saying, as an example, sometimes it's hard to marry those two types of people. So my point is, I would love to see more dealers say, "Hey, I need 5 service advisors. Here's the type of person that I want. Here's some of the backgrounds that I think, it would make a nice transition to it, but they don't necessarily have to have service advisor experience." The majority of the recruiting that we do in regard to service advisors for dealerships is, I just need somebody experienced who can come in here and start day one and
Of
do
Right,
the
course.
yeah,
run.
plug and play.
Well, but and again, that is a necessity at times.
Yeah.
We look for people for our company. We look for people who, have experience, who can handle certain things, right? So I understand both. We've internally promoted people and groomed people. They started in one department and they want to have interest. And, over the course of 6 months, we train them up and give them a little bit. And then
Right.
next thing you know, 6 months later, they're over in this
Right,
department.
Get them on the bus and then put them
But
in
you
the
could
right
have
seat.
both of those. The key more for that is if I'm bringing somebody in through, who is experienced, that's fine. But when they get here, it's like, here's how we do this here.
Yeah.
Right. I like the fact that you worked as a service advisor. I like the fact that you worked in a dealership. You understand the lingo. You understand the speed. You understand what the deal is, right?
Right.
Very similar, as I said, if I work from one restaurant to another,
Right.
you understand the service business.
Right.
But
However-
here, we do it this way. So
Right.
if you can bring all those talents to there,
Yeah.
great. Bring all your experience. Bring everything you did at the other places. We'll talk about it. Right? You might have a great idea. Well, over there we did this. Oh, I never thought about that. But just start here and do this. I think a lot of times as a default is you're new, you did it before, just go out there and start
Right.
doing, because they don't have a framework of, well, this is the experience we want to deliver. It's just go out and sell and go out and do,
Right.
because it's a time thing. Again, it
is a time
It's
thing.
a 30-day cycle.
Well, and-
it's brutal.
And the reason that they usually want that type of person is because of the time limitations. So what you just said, more often than not, that's the exception, not the rule. Because if they want that experienced person, both for sales or service advisors, because they're assuming they're not going to have to spend much time with them. So I think it's just setting up for failure, because you do get someone who, they, like you said, they know the lingo, they understand, but you might do things completely different than the last place that they were at, and all they know is to come in and do it the way that they were taught previously.
Yeah, you end up what a lot of people don't understand or think about is the opportunity cost of, or how much time I'm going to have to spend later fixing.
Yeah, right.
Right. Instead of saying, if I front loaded even an experienced person, put them through some sort of expedited training, even if you say, here's my training, and you accomplish it all in 3 or 4 days, awesome. Let's
Right.
roll. But you understand, versus if I push you out there, then all of a sudden things are blowing up. I got to go deal with it. I got to deal with other employees who are upset because of this happened or cranky cut. And you don't take that into consideration where actually you have 3 times the amount of time now to deal with something and try to go backwards and fix things versus being really upfront. This is what we do. Here's how we do it. We have a training period, whatever it is, and hopefully because of your experience, you speed through this. I hope you speed through this in 2 days. Awesome.
Right.
But we're still going through it.
Right.
Right. You know, I remember my training at a restaurant. They said, well, usually takes a week. After day 2, they said, this guy understands everything. He's done it. And and they were like, great, let's go. But they didn't stop.
Yeah.
They kept saying, could you, because they would tell me once and I was like, that's easy. Let's do it. Versus you got to repeat. So I'm hoping that if I bring in a salesperson who's comfortable, you've worked for the brand before, so you know all the models. Awesome. Here's how we do this here. Well, I did this a little, you might walk into a dealership where your previous one was a BDC setup and they set the appointments. This one, you set the appointments. So if I'm not clear about that in the interview process, now I'm going to be yelling at you going, why aren't you making calls? What are you talking about calls? I'm waiting for appointments.
Right.
No, you set your own appointments. Well, you didn't tell me that.
Sure.
Or vice versa. I used to set my own appointments and now I don't set the appointments. Or here's how we do it. Or we desk our own deals. Or no, we always get someone involved. Or here where, if you're experienced, you can run your own F&I. Or no, I just need to know the parameters, just like a sports team. Every team you go to, you know how to play baseball, you know how to play first base, but the rules of the team, how we practice, football, same thing. Every team has different wording of plays. You still know how to run it, but here's how we practice here. Right. Here's how you're responsible to do X. Here's how we structure our day. Hopefully you speed all through that and go, okay, it's no problem.
Right.
Versus, oh, well, no, I didn't do it that way, so I'm going to do it my own way. They're going, no, I don't think so.
Right. And I think that still comes back to a type of person. So experience or not, I did a Facebook Live a couple weeks ago about not prejudging a person and not just talking about race and sex and all that, but prejudging based on resumes. We see a lot of this both ways, but I see it especially with our mid and upper level management positions because we'll get bombarded with a ton for a GM position. I mean, just hundreds of resumes, and you look through them, and this guy looks great. This person looks great. Then you get them on the phone, and you start talking to them and digging into what kind of person they actually are, and it's like, this person's a total knucklehead. There's no way they could fit with this dealership's culture, or you know what I mean. So it's the experience is good, but you got to dig a little deeper. Is this person going to be trainable? Are they going to come in and accept that we do things differently? And those are things you have to go through during an interview to identify that.
In our opinion, and we have to do, and we are, but in our interview, we're and Joe brought us into this, emotional intelligence is so important in initial hires anymore. And I think a good portion, maybe 25% of, any interview should have quote unquote emotional intelligence type questions in it. Are we hiring someone or potentially hiring someone that has empathy? Are we hiring someone, bringing someone aboard that has self-awareness and so on, and all the other pillars of emotional intelligence? Because it's so important right now, man. If you're just hiring for, any other reason,
accountability is a big one. A great question that kind of gets beat around the bush during a screening process is, it's always worded as why are you available, but a better way to put it is why didn't this position work out? And here's another example of what I talked about with the prejudging, especially in our industry. People, well, why are you a job hopper? Why were you only there for a year? Why were you only there for 2 years? Now, obviously, at a certain point, it becomes habitual, and there's something else going on, but why would someone stay at the wrong place longer than they had to?
Right.
If they were there for a year and it was the wrong place, so don't judge just because they've been around, but dig deeper and find out what happened here. And then when you ask them that, if you start hearing they, this guy didn't get, you got to identify it. They're always blaming somebody else for why it didn't work out.
See, I don't mind, same thing. So when we look for people, I had to train our team, same thing. They would say, well, they're jumping jobs.
Right.
And I always said, well, it depends what you mean by jumping. If it's just lateral jobs to the same position, That's a bigger flag than if somebody goes,
Right, you gotta
if they're
dig in.
constantly moving up.
And
Right.
plus, the so-called millennial too. I don't know what the stat are. 7 jobs in 10 years or whatever. This kind of normal thing. So it's like,
Well,
you
I
might
just
want
think,
to take
well,
that into consideration. as
listen,
well.
that doesn't bother. As I said, that doesn't bother me because if somebody started out as this and then they moved
Change
to a new
careers
job,
completely.
or
Sure.
change careers, or just went, I was entry level here,
Right.
Now I went for a coordinator position, and
Right.
then
Yeah.
over here it
Right.
was an assistant to so and so,
course.
and you can see the ladder of going, okay, you jumped because in our company, we have about 30 people. But, I've had people who've left our company for better in their
course.
mind for their career because they said there's a ceiling,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
like
we've-
you're not
we've
going to get,
experienced
you're not,
it. Yeah.
we Denise is now running, but for a long time I was running the day to day. So it wasn't like you're going
Right.
to get this job,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so somebody would say, well, I have a great opportunity to go run. I'm like, God bless you, go. You
Got
have
to.
to do this for yourself.
Got to. Those
I
are the
don't-
kind of people you want to hire up front anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, you
and
really
say-
do.
I always look at it and say, if people stay with me for 2 years, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
2 years is a good level. Where they've learned, they've taken everything they could out of this, and
Right.
they have another opportunity to do such and such, or maybe they go somewhere and they say,
Right.
the person who's here who's running the team, they're not leaving, and I have an opportunity to go run a team.
Right.
God bless you.
Right. And they've brought X amount of dollars in revenue, and you're going to keep that revenue. You're going to lose the employee, but you're going to keep
but
that revenue.
I always it's interesting.
keep that customer.
There's a lot of people who have left and moved on, but they still have a good relationship with
Yeah.
us. They've referred people. I refer people to them.
Yeah.
So it's
We have that as well.
Right.
It's awesome.
So it's great, and you're excited. I'm excited when I
Yeah.
see people who worked for us who are now leading departments in bigger companies, or they're doing something really cool. I'm going, wow. And they'll say, I learned a lot from you, and I learned a lot from the company, and my time at the company was impacted me to be able to go do this. That's great. And I hear some business owners, friends of mine, who say, "Oh, I get mad when people." I'm like, do you really think people are going to stay with you forever? If you really want to do that, give them a piece of the company.
Yeah. Right.
Give them a piece of the company, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll stay. But
Yeah.
other than that, they got to think about their own families.
Right. When I speak at conferences or blogs or videos or all the stuff that I do, I constantly talk about that. It's like if you bring on the right new hire into your dealership as a salesperson in this example, and that person does whatever. Let's use your 2 years, and let's use, I don't know, 150 cars a year, 300 cars at $2,000 a car, $600,000. Right now, if I knew up front, and then they're going to leave. But if I can get $600,000 out of somebody with a good CSI and so on and so forth, a good person, of good character, I'm going to retain his or her customers, right? And if they move on to greener pastures, something they're really passionate about, go get them.
Go get them.
But for us as dealers to take a look at a hiring situation, almost regardless of what that position is, to make that person sign in blood, this is my career for the rest of my life, and if not, we're not interested in you, is a fairy tale.
Well, it's just short-sighted.
It's short-sighted, for sure.
It's short-sighted. I mean, I think people, it's interesting because when I was just speaking at a 20 group and we were talking about brand messaging and how to build your brand, to make it more, to stand out in your market. And I said, well, go ask your veterans. I made them raise their hand. How many people have people who are working for you over 5 years or 7 years or 10 years? And
Yeah.
I said, go talk to them
Right.
and ask, why do you stay here? If automotive is such a transitory job,
Right.
turnover's so crazy, why are those folks still here?
Right.
Right.
They're going to tell you something about your business.
Yeah.
Now, how do you now replicate that to your newer folks?
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
Because,
that's a nice exercise.
Yeah, because if I treat you a certain way and you feel this, that's why you're here. Well, am I making my new folks feel that way too?
Yeah.
Without that perception, did I make you sign in blood that you're going to be here forever? It's no, you stayed here because you like this.
Right.
And it fits whatever you're doing. So learn from that to say, well, how can I replicate that? Because again, culture is just another buzzword. but that's built from the ground up. That's how your people interact with each other, how your managers and people interact with them. That's what it is. You can't create some fake culture. You can't say, hey, we're going to give because we're going to give them this, it's going to help. No, it's the fact that they have a place where they're getting feedback, their place where they feel appreciated, the fact that they're getting trained and coached, they're getting paid a wage that is good. Everybody wants more, but they're not sitting there going, oh my God.
Yeah, right.
And I think if you become more aware of that, then to your point, now I can go out and hire those types of people. What are the qualities? What are the qualities of the people that have been here for 7 years? What are the quality of my long-term people? If you actually did that exercise, you'd start saying, huh.
Yeah, there's a pattern.
And then look at the people, look at the people who spun out.
Yeah, same thing.
And see if they don't have those characteristics, right? Was I looking for those characteristics? Or did I just hire somebody and in my mind I knew they weren't a fit?
Right.
I knew it.
Right.
But I didn't trust my gut.
Right.
Because
and they
I
had the experience.
I just needed somebody today.
Right.
I'm always, it's funny. I think even dealerships, and I can take it from our company too. There came a point where we had one account manager who left. They moved out of, state. And I just said, we're not hiring to replace them. We're going to spread out the work. I think we can handle this. Some grumbling in the beginning, whatever, but the team rallied. They did a great job. They rallied because there was no option B. It was like, okay, I guess we can figure this out. Now, I've talked with Dan Moore, our good friend. He used to work with us as a partner. He used to always say that too. One of his philosophies was people can always do more than they think they can.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? You have more on your plate. And I used to always say that too.
Isn't that true?
Right?
We have a company full of those
But
people.
think about it.
They don't say no.
If you say Joe can handle 10, right? That's maxed out. We're like, if Joe's got 10, well, because of fluctuations, we lose a few customers or whatever, and the sales cycle is here, and I don't want, just because we lose clients, I don't want to get Joe out of here, because then tomorrow if we get sales comes in, I'm like, where the hell is Joe?
Right.
But if Joe's at 7 for a length of time, that's his 10 in his mind. Now, when I go up and give you 8 or start pushing you there, you're like, oh my God, I'm getting overworked.
Crumble. Yeah.
Well, just mentally, you start going, I'm exceeding what I'm doing. And you're going, no, you should be able to do 10.
Right.
So Dan used to always joke about that, saying, listen, if you people will do it. And when they start squirming, just watch. And there will be a point where you're going, okay, we've hit our 10, or now you got 11.
Right.
We really got to do this. But
law of diminishing return is real.
But I think what happens is that if you lose somebody in the store, instead of making an impulsive hire and panicking, just tell the team, we got to still hit our numbers, folks.
Yeah.
Which means we got to make more phone calls. We got to do that. Now you got to be invested to coach them and push through this. But it's going back to football. If your tight end goes down, it's next person up. And you might turn around and say, well, they're not really as qualified as
Doesn't
them.
matter.
It's like, we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, we got to figure it out. And then everybody else has to suck it up and say, well, then I got to work harder to get open because this person's this, or the running back, or we got to try different play. We have to win.
Sure. And when you're a small business owner, it's like that is just constantly in your face because the show's got to go on. So it doesn't matter if you lost that one person that was carrying a heavy load. It's like it's still got to get done. And even if you were hiring somebody to replace them, like you said, you're not just going to hire for convenience. So you're going to take your time. So that work's still got to get done.
It still has to get done. But by getting the right person, it may take you an extra week. But long term, that's going to help your company more because, again, it's this balance of front-loading time versus long-term problems, right? If I jump-start it too quick over here, guess what? I'm either going to spend a heck of a lot of time trying to manage this person day to day, and then in 6 months, 8 months, I'm getting rid of them anyway. They're leaving or whatever, right? But if I'm constantly – I always tell our team we should constantly be looking for people, right? Even if we're not hiring today, I want to know because – everybody keeps thinking, well, what if you fire somebody? Okay, if somebody's not performing. What happens if they just, for some reason, come in tomorrow and say, hey, I'm leaving?
Sure.
Right? So I think if you always are looking, but again, don't lower your standards. your team can handle more than they need to, or more than you think in the short term, right? Because again, if that person walks out tomorrow, you still have a week till you can get bodies in there to even interview, and then maybe, right? So that means everybody's just got to suck it up. You can't go to the manufacturer and go, oh, well, we lost Craig, so don't hold me accountable to sales. It's like, folks, we all got to, pull up our bootstraps and let's roll, right? We got to get this done. So I think a lot of that, if you mentally understand how much your team can do, I think it gives you a little extra time to think about who should be on my team. Right. Make it hard to be on my team. Well, right? Make it hard to join my team.
Absolutely.
And then you find that actually you'll be saving more time later on because you hired correctly up front.
Right. And you also want to identify those same types of people that thrive in that environment and want to be pushed to their limits. But at the same time, you can trust that if they're past their limits, they're going to come to you, and you create a nice policy or an environment where they feel comfortable saying, I literally cannot do anymore. It's starting to affect the quality of our work.
You should, as a manager, you should be aware of that.
Be able to see it.
Well, you have to treat everybody individually, meaning that everybody has a certain level, but Craig can handle an extra 2.
We do the same
you
thing.
Can't.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Right.
I win as a team.
Right.
I win as a team.
Right.
And maybe it's just going to take you a little longer. You still got to get 6 more months in you, and then you can handle those 2. I can't rush that. I just have to be able to be there for you and help, or I might have to lean on Craig and say, Craig, we got to pick up one more until he's ready over here. Yeah. And that's okay too, but then you reward Craig or you give him something, a pat on the back.
That's exactly what we do. It's interesting. We've had, we're really blessed to have the overwhelming majority of our team members to be with us a long time. I mean, like a long time, like 70% over 10 years, which is,
that's fantastic.
In the vendor world, or any world, is probably pretty amazing. Now, bringing in some new hires because of growth here lately knocks down that percentage a little bit. But it's interesting. This conversation makes me think is like, I have a perception of why these people have stayed with us. We pay them too much and the benefits are too good, and I'm really cool to work for.
Spoken like an owner.
Right.
Spoken like a true owner.
You got to keep that line to yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Jeez,
that's your inside voice,
thousands
not
of people
your outside.
listen to this.
That's not your
that
outside voice. No.
But it's, we need to ask. We need to do a better job of perhaps one-on-one asking these people. Why have you been with us?
Because that's going to be your marketing to new people.
Correct.
Right? You're no different than what you tell your customers. You tell dealers, get reviews about why they should do business with you to attract new customers.
Right.
It's no different.
Right.
Not just your customer to customer, but when you're recruiting for your own team, you need to have, hey, look, here's what our people who've been here for 10 years say about us.
Right.
Right. That's a valuable thing. So that way, because again, if there's other recruiting companies out there, there's other training companies out there. Well, that candidate is probably going to get headhunted or talk to all those other ones. So what's different between you than the other 2 or 3 that I'm interviewing with? Right. You got to have that message, and again, it goes back to basic marketing. You telling me how great you are is not the same as your employees telling me how great you are, and this is a great place to work, and your customers saying this is a great place to work as well, right? Yeah. But I think that to you it also allows you to understand why.
Right.
Right, exactly.
And just to say, well, what am I doing that's working? And have we drifted away from that?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or are we, no, we're still, you got to get feedback.
Yeah.
And we spun it out to another level just because we have so many different customers. So now we're doing a lot of placement too, where people are coming to us. Like I said, we get a ton of resumes from people. Hey, I'm making a move. I'm looking to make a move. So we call around and we talk to the people we know. And I just placed an exceptional he's former GM. Kid's just unbelievable. It's just honorable discharge from the military. Just phenomenal candidate.
Yeah.
Once he's going to work as a new car manager for a dealer of ours down in Houston, and I got through all that. He told me he accepted. He's, my family's moving down. We're thrilled. Thank you so much. And I'm like, can I get a video from you? And it took him a second. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, just a couple minutes. Just talk about your experience with AutoMax, because then, like you said, now we can put that out there and market it and say, hey, on the candidate side, here's who we are as a company. send us your resume. we
Hey,
will
look,
find
somebody's
stuff
saying,
for you.
listen, if you're looking to get a career change,
Right.
we also do this.
Yeah.
We'll also help see if we can place you. You know,
Yeah.
we have a big network. It ties
Right.
into we've sold. You've done a bazillion campaigns, which means you have contact with a bazillion dealers.
Right.
So let us help you.
Right.
Navigate.
Yeah.
And I think but to your point is I need a video, I need feedback, I need a
Right.
testimonial
Right.
of like they helped me, they did this, they took the worry out.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk about NADA 2020.
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
You had a few travel issues, but other than that,
Other
it was
than-
funny.
other
I
than that-
called
Wait,
you.
how did I miss the travel issue? What
Oh,
were the travel
dude.
issues? I missed it.
It
He
was
had
everything
airline
that
nightmare,
could possibly
man.
everything that could possibly go wrong. Getting out there. So I was out in Nashville first, doing
Right.
some training with Infiniti and Nissan, and so got to Vegas, no problem. Hosted our AWA awards.
How do we get one of those awards? Why haven't we got an award?
I don't know.
Like we're like rock stars. Why
Getting the
wouldn't-
name of his company.
Yeah,
right, would be a
getting the
good
name of the
first
company
start.
right would be the first thing. So anyway, we did
What,
that.
PGG,
and-
you mean?
Yeah, PGG. So
Is
finished
that a
up.
gas company or something?
I don't know.
I think that is a.
It could be.
I think.
So
go ahead.
I had the overnight flight because I had to get back, go to Miami for a 20 group. So I had overnight flight, fly to Newark, land, swap planes, go.
Right.
Get on the plane,
Right.
get off the plane. We have a maintenance issue. I'm like, and
That's all right. I'll get off the plane for a maintenance issue.
update. Finally, they canceled the flight at 3:00 in the morning. I thought there was going to be a riot.
Whoa.
3:30, I'm sitting there now. They had booked me on the 9:00 flight already, and I called up, when this was going on, like, can I get on the 6:00 flight? No, there's no seats 6. Come on. I'm a 1K. Can you help? I was like, pulled the 1K card, see if that'll help.
Right.
Oh, we'll put you on standby. So, here it is, 3:30. The United Club opens at 4:30. Haven't slept, so I'm hanging out, going, all right, let me go down here. This close to getting on standby, they go, okay, we have a seat for you. Here's your number. Go in. I get in there, and there's no seats. So I had to walk back off the plane, and they said no. And I saw other people who were on the flight as me who were not 1K on there, and I'm thinking, how'd they sneak in? Like, what did I do wrong? So I'm calling up, how did I miss it? So I get a 9:00 flight, get to Newark at 5:00. Now I'm on a 7:00 flight. Now I was supposed to go to the Fort Myers side of Florida, but they said that plane's not going to get you there on time. Put you on Miami. So I got to Miami, but it's a 2-hour drive. So I get in an Uber. The first Uber goes, where are we going? I said, over here. He goes, oh, yeah, that's not too far. He said, yeah, it's about here. And he goes, wait a minute, that's over 2 hours. Nope, I've been driving. Get out.
Whoa.
I said, you accepted the ride? He goes, no, I'm not going to drive. So I had to find another Uber driver. So here we are driving through Florida, that east to west, in the middle of the night, losing cell service, right? And I'm thinking, oh, God, what's going on? And he goes, yeah, I can't go too fast. We have to watch for animals. So I'm thinking to myself, and I joke from Jersey, I'm like, oh, raccoons or something? He goes, no, gators. And so I'm thinking, great, we're going to hit a gator. Car's going to break down. I'm going to get pulled into the swamp and die from getting
Eaten
killed
by a
gator.
monster.
Right, the Jersey guy getting eaten by a gator. So we finally get to the hotel over there on Marco Island at 1:15. So here I have been 12 hours or whatever, just... And the guy goes, he's left me a message, and I texted him when I landed in Miami. I'm like, I'm coming. He goes, I haven't heard from you. I'm like, I'm coming. What are you doing over there? Don't even talk to me. Well, the 20 group wanted to do it early. So they said,
Great.
we need you at 6:30 because we're going to start talking at 7. So here I am, 4 hours of sleep,
Whoa.
coffeeed up, like, let's roll, 3-hour presentation. Then get back on it. Here it is. I basically looked through and said, oh, there's a palm tree. Then back on the flight. Get back to the airport, Fort Myers. That's delayed because Newark was under some sort of storm, whatever. So I finally get home to my house at like 9:00, and I'm just beat, exhausted. And I was just laughing. I was like, United did the best they could. They tried. But it was just literally when they say Fort Myers, they go, oh, this one's canceled. I was like, of course it's canceled. It's delayed. Why not? It was just, so that was my.
Yeah. Well, I called you, and I thought you were home the day before, but you had just gotten home. It was like, what?
Yeah, because I had to go
thought it was
down. I
done.
went down to Miami, which was a great 20 group.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So NADA. So we haven't been. Thing came up the other day in the memories. It's been 7 years.
7 years before I was a dad. Yeah, 7 years.
7 years, and we've been. I don't know. I went to a couple when I was in retail a million years ago, but as a company, I think we've been to 8.
Right.
But we made a conscious decision, not to go anymore. For our company, although from what I hear, we might have missed one this time. Evidently, there was more talk about human capital and people, from what I'm gathering and looking at some of the recaps of NADA. But for us, in our opinion, and just based on flat-out ROI, dealers don't seem to go there for our kind of thing.
Right.
They're there more for digital, obviously, technology. And
They're more tech.
Even
so
though
definitely more tech.
Even though our business has gone towards tech and AI a lot more, we have to, and we'll continue to do so. And I'm not going to get into NADA bashing. There's enough of that going on by vendors all over the place. So that is not, I think that's kind of tasteless. But we made a decision not to do it. And we say, because NADA is funny. The space is cheap. It's cheaper than Digital Dealer, I think, for
half of Digital Dealer.
Right, for square footage, right?
Yeah, I think a 10 by 10 booth is like $35 a square feet. And I think Digital Dealer, last time I looked, was around 55, 56, something like that.
Yeah. Now the upsell, electricity is $11 million, and to get Wi-Fi is $8 million, and a waste paper basket $600,000. But joking, kind of. But by the time you get all your people there,
sure,
flights, food, accommodations,
it's hard
and it's like, whoa.
It depends on your business. We didn't do a booth this year. We didn't do one last year because during the transition.
Suitcase, did you?
No, we didn't actually. We didn't do one last year because of the transition with Vista Dash. So we didn't know, and they ask you for booths so early, and we didn't know what that was going to be. Right, exactly. And so last year we just did a cocktail hour.
That's right. Yeah.
Use some money to do that. And then this year we just said, you know what? We don't have time. We just didn't see the need. Brian was only there one day. And in the past, Brian and I have now been pulled into different meetings outside of the booth. So then people are always going, "Where's Glenn and Brian?" Texting you, "Get over here. Somebody needs to meet you." A dealer. And we just said, this year we made a decision as well. So we were there. We didn't get chosen. We were not chosen to speak this year.
Wow.
But we had a lot of meetings.
You applied and were not chosen?
I applied and was not chosen. This is the first year in like 7 years. I think one of us has not been, or 8 years.
That's interesting. You want to talk about that?
No, it's their selection. I don't know. Maybe they just got tired of us.
Well, I think a lot of it comes back to what you were talking about, where it's become kind of a trade show, where it's just a shiny new object. There's something gimmicky or flashy or techy, I guess is the right word.
Or you have to have your speech sometimes. Again, it's not flashy enough or how it is. But it was fine.
There is politics in who can speak, though.
I'm sure there's politics everywhere. That doesn't bother me. But it was, in the past, when you do it, you have to do it 2 or 3 times. So there is a commitment outside of your booth.
Right.
This year, we figured we had the AWAs, we had meetings already set up. I always felt like I was 20 minutes late to everything I was doing because I was, I did Frank Lopez's podcast. I did.
Geez, Frank had to be freaking exhausted.
So I did his.
How many did he do?
I did his. I did someone else's podcast, and then I went and had meetings with manufacturers. So I was busy the whole time.
Yeah, good.
And, I think that the overall attendance seemed a little lighter.
That's what I heard.
But every vendor said this was one of their best NADAs because the people who were there were the owners and GMs. Because a couple dealers said, I left the GSM. People I would normally bring, I left them home because it was President's Day weekend.
Oh, that's right.
So they were going big sale.
That's right. Good point.
Right. So but you did have that left you with more decision makers. So when I was talking to some of my friends who were vendors, they were going, man, we were busy and we were signing things. Now, going back to the ROI, some of those things you can pencil that right then and there.
Right.
A lot of times you won't sign the deal there.
That's right.
But it'll pencil. We've never not penciled. It just takes maybe a year.
Yep.
to get all that money back. But
Yeah.
you could, again, if you sign one contract there,
Right.
when you add up all the monthly fees,
Right.
it just takes you 6 months to get that money.
Right.
But you put it all out,
Right.
now.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. The conference world right now, I mean, it's like a couple have kind of gone away, I think.
Like who?
There was
Who went away?
the little guy, I don't know, is he still doing his?
Who's the little guy?
Where we made it a whole. We're almost at. We're 11 months.
40 episodes.
11 months without that.
But I mean, there's there seems to be some boutique ones that went away. But if you're a dealer, you're a manager, and you're trying to decide, well, let's take it two ways: dealer, manager, your dealership trying to decide which ones to attend, and you're a vendor deciding, where's my money best
Right.
spent. How do you make that decision? I mean, because everyone's going to pitch you the same way. Oh, I got most of our crowd are decision makers.
Well,
and
you
it's
have
gonna
to
be
you
X
have to
amount
go
of people.
test it. Now, if I think you were talking about, I think everybody's trying to do the right thing. So again,
Yeah.
when you were saying before this, whoever,
Right.
I think their conferences are still going on, and I've had dealers who and vendors who say some of the best ROI
Yeah.
for
Oh, yeah.
his
Oh, it was for us too.
right for
Yeah.
the people that if it's Sean, if you're talking about
Right.
his conferences, people love his conferences,
It
but they're
works well for us.
People go for that
Right, right.
So they go because of what his message is and how his style works, and he is very successful.
Right.
And that's awesome. I've had other people who would go there and their product may not fit the people, his audience.
Right. Like I
Right.
said, we don't fit at NADA
Right.
necessarily.
So you
right.
have to look at it and say, who is his audience?
Yeah.
Right. You could say back when Jim was doing his and still did his
Right.
internet battle plans, you're going
Right.
to say you have to understand the audience. Same with ours.
Right.
What's PCG or Brian, our two events. What are we getting? Right.
Right.
And you see a lot of these other ones, even Rockstar, right? So if you're going to say, for Matt,
Right.
what is their audience?
Right.
What's their messaging?
Right.
And does my product fit into that? And then you have to test it, right? We've been doing conferences for 10 plus years, right? From small to big. And we've had vendors who have been very successful. We have other vendors who weren't successful. We have people who would say, we paid for all of this right here. Like day one, we signed enough business to pay all of this, and we still have day two. We have other ones who say it took us a little longer. We have other ones who go, it didn't work.
Right.
And that's fine. So
Right.
I think you have to go into it as a vendor to say, this is my budget for the year. Now, there still may be a surprise one that comes up, or, if I could get into that conference for a low fee, at the very end, I'll still check and just, I draw the line in the sand.
As a dealer, we're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying first as a vendor.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
From a vendor to say, is this
Right,
going to
okay.
pencil for me? I got to be
Right.
from it. Now, from a dealer's perspective, it's the same thing. It's understanding who's hosting, right? Who's the host?
Right.
Sean's is a little different than ours. Jim's little different than ours,
Right,
right?
right.
Matt's different than ours, right?
Yours
So
different than digital dealer.
it's
so
a
on
little
and so
different,
forth.
right? Digital dealers bigger. We get now, DMSC was always designed for digital marketing strategies, high level strategies, talking about that, not so in the weeds tactical. That's when we used to have the
Right.
boot camp. That
Right.
was not like dealers.
Yeah.
You want to come fine, but send us your people because this is
I
open
like
up your
that.
laptop.
Why'd you guys do away with that?
We
whatever.
stopped.
Yeah, I
well,
liked
we
it.
stopped the boot camp, but now that's what the fixed ops boot camp is in March. It's
Oh,
more
okay.
tactical type of work. But that strategies was a higher level conversation, and it attracted the general managers, and it was designed for the dealer principal, not for internet folks, right? So if you are a dealer and you're saying, who should I go see?
Yeah.
You have to go look at who's the focal point, who's setting this whole thing up. Because even if, Jim has a style, Jim has an opinion, so Jim's also going to aggregate some speakers and vendors that are aligned with his vision of
Right.
things.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
You then say, I like that.
Right.
or I don't know if I like that, or I
Right.
want to, or that's not going to be as, if I'm looking for, say, digital, you might turn around and say, well, this conference A over here is not, I think I'd rather go see Brian and Glenn because they're always writing about it. They run an agency. They're more tactical. They're
Right.
digital. Right.
Right.
But if you're saying like Josh Mitchell's doing his BDC Raw,
Right.
right? You wouldn't come to, if I said I'm doing a BDC thing, they
Gotcha.
go, you're not really the expert on BDC. Yes.
Right.
Could I go train somebody? Could I help
Right.
somebody? Do I have an opinion?
Right.
Absolutely. That's
Right.
why Mark McGurran used to work with us, because
Right.
he's way better
Yeah.
at that.
What's he do?
He has his
anymore?
own. He has his own company.
Oh,
Very
does he?
successful. Yep, doing fantastic.
Him and his wife always were real impressive to me. They seem like such sweet people.
They're really great people.
Yeah.
Really, truly, truly great people. But so to your point is, if you're looking for BDC, you're going to there.
Right,
And
right,
I was
right.
joking with Josh, like, hey, I'm not speaking there, but I shouldn't be speaking there. I can
right.
talk process. I
Right.
can talk how BDC is part of your overall, but Bobby Heron lives and breathes this stuff, right? She should be on the stage talking about this, right? And some other people who are in that space, that's their wheelhouse.
Right.
But, you wouldn't have somebody like some different say, okay, well, you're going to come in
Yeah.
here and you're going to talk about Google My Business and you're going to talk about Facebook advertising. That you could talk about it, but it's
Right.
not, you're not going to be seen. So I think for dealers, same thing. You have a cost. You have a amount of money that I'm going at. Now you might say, I have to go to NADA. It's going.
Right.
That also is a time where manufacturer meetings, I can kill two birds with one stone. I'm bringing my spouse because we're going to be in a
Parties.
nice place.
Right.
And there's events and it's fun and there's stuff versus I'm going and I'm going to sit in a room and learn all day. On the flip side, so then you say, well, what am I trying to accomplish? And then should I be going or should I be sending my GM or GSM or whatever? So I think that's the same way that you have to go through is decide where I'm going to get my education and test it out.
Yeah.
And as I said, for vendors, it's also, is this the right crowd for me? I know there's
Right.
people who go out and they do everybody's and they're testing it.
Right.
And then they'll pull back next year saying, that's not the crowd for me.
Right. Well, and we've experienced that, and kind of building off what you're saying, and maybe this ties into, at least on the dealer side, to the cost thing that you were talking about, or time. Something that you mentioned at the beginning of the show that you're doing is having a West Coast setup and an East Coast setup. I think is really smart. Do you notice? I see the conferences being massively geography driven. When we do anything on the West Coast, it's all the left coast dealers that we don't do as much business with just because we're an East Coast company. I mean, it's just time constraints for one thing. It's just the time of business is different. So we tend to have more clients,
Midwest
to the
East.
right. So do you see that as much at conferences? With you hosting stuff on West Coast and East Coast, do you get I see less people travel from coast to coast for
if they have an
conferences.
option. So what happens is when we only used to have one, people would say, well, I got to go. Now that they have the Florida one, they're going, and so it's more, well, I'll stay here versus flying all the way over there. I think that's why, you have even two digital dealers and, you try different places and NADA bounces
Are
between.
they still doing the workshops?
I don't know.
Because that Philly thing was kind of good for us, actually.
Well, any of
obviously, 'cause
those
it was right
things,
here,
when
but-
you're local, and even for you guys, when you're saying, that's very smart. We did the same thing where we say, we have West Coast clients, but because of the time, we're an East Coast group.
It's weird, man.
It's I'd rather not say that, but our
Right.
focus a lot of times is really how do we get more that we could drive to, right? From
Right.
the, Troy does a lot of that.
Right,
I
of
want
course.
I want most of my clients within 5 hours so I can drive and see them.
Yep.
Not to say I won't take business.
Yep.
But it just allows you that comfort level also of you understand you're over on this side versus that side. But
Yeah.
I think for conferences, I'm seeing smaller. Like me personally, and again, this is just my opinion, I think Digital Dealer needs to rethink. I think there seems like they're trying to rethink the format. I think they have too many speakers.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the vendors...
Well, I wanted to speak to that because that's watered the thing down, man. It's like expansion in professional sports. And more, where are you going to find 3 days, 14 whatever per hour per day for 3 days? It's like, That talent pool gets watered
It
down a
does
little
get
bit.
thin. I mean,
I'm
NADA 's
concerned about the content going out to dealers.
NADA is a little different because you're
Right.
talking about every aspect, right? So you
Right.
have people talking about financials and everything. When you're going and
Right.
saying we're talking digital,
Right.
I've said that. I just don't know that many folks
Right.
that you could have 100 something,
proficient.
200 people. Well, there's two things. One is, do you know what your stuff is? And
Right.
then number two, are you a good speaker?
Yeah.
You could be super knowledgeable and a horrible speaker, so
Yeah.
it's not engaging.
Right.
Or it's the level of, I did hear some comments about NADA this year that some of the stuff on the digital track was really basic 101 or incorrect or
Saw
not up
that
to
too.
date.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Now that also is a tough thing for NADA. I mean, again, it's an impossible thing for them, but they usually ask for your presentation, by June
Right.
and locked in. You can't change it. So, either your slides have to be super broad, not a lot of specifics, because God forbid Google changes something and now your deck's wrong and you may or may not be able to change an update or whatever, but they have to
that's
vet
right.
everything. So I understand that hurdle, but I think digital dealer would be better served to cut down the amount of speakers so the rooms are full, because then you
agree.
attract speakers. Because if you have a speaker
Yeah.
who is going, I want to do it, and then they get 10 people in the room,
Yeah,
they're going,
I-
why the hell did I come here?
I spoke in a room, it was 9.
So
It was
I
what?
just look at it, and then I think then that generates more time in the vendor space.
Yeah.
Again, they do it's very good about the content. Love it. I mean, I'm all for education, but if they don't have enough time maxed out where they're in this vendor space to see the products and the services, not just, hey, we're going to have a 15-minute coffee break. Now get going, get back to your content, get back to your classes. All of a sudden you see vendors going, this doesn't pencil. So now all of a sudden the vendors aren't there anymore. It's a vicious cycle. So I think they need to rethink that, to re-energize that brand, because I always have liked that conference. I think it's a great, idea.
Right.
I just think it went a little bit too much, meaning that I got too many speakers.
Yeah.
And so with the new ownership,
Right.
I'm hoping they're rethinking this.
Take a
where
while to get that thing
and
going
I think
again.
so. That's why I think you're starting to see more smaller, intimate conferences.
Right.
For ours, as I said, DMSE last year, we had about 220 dealer people, and then probably another 75 between speakers and vendors. The one in Florida, I think we had just a shade over 300 dealers,
Jeez.
right? And that's about as big as we want to get, right? Before it gets too unwieldy and you lose that intimacy. I'd rather have it sold out, 300 dealers every single time, and not
Yeah, of
worry
course.
about it. And then you have the content, everybody, for both conferences last year, huge compliments about the content. Everybody was like, this was great. This is very progressive. This is forward thinking, great people, and that's what we pride ourselves on. But I see more and more small conferences. Can we get 60 to 70 people in a room, 90 people, right? I'd rather do, same thing. Let's go do it. We've done it in the past where it's like we just have the traveling road show, and over the year it's like, hey, we're in Arizona. Now we're in California. We're doing one, and we're doing one in Nashville, and we're doing one in the, and that takes time and a commitment, but the ROI for those people hosting it or as a sponsor in those are better, because you have a small group of people that you're there versus thousands of people wandering around.
Right. Did you? There's a reason I'm asking you this. I sent you an invite to our group, Fixed Ops Initiative. Do you remember getting that? You should join that. I think I sent you an invite.
You might have.
Yeah, it's really good fixed ops. We just started it like a month ago. There's 245 members, but it's all
Great.
service directors, owners, that kind of thing. Good
Yeah,
group
good.
on
I'll
Facebook.
join it. Definitely.
Where in Florida is your conference?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go right to
It
next.
is in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
You can go to Brian
all
if you
fixed
go
ops?
to Brian, go to brianpasch.com, that website, brianpasch.com. It has the event in the address in Fort Lauderdale.
And when is that?
March 18th. It's a Wednesday.
I might try and get our marketing director out there to kind
Yeah.
of absorb as much as possible.
Yeah, he lives down that way.
He actually started our fixed ops group.
Yeah.
Great.
He's
Brian Stroka,
absorbing as
awesome
much
guy.
fixed ops as possible right now.
Yeah, and if there's anything we can do to help him with his marketing and education and thought,
That would be
you know,
awesome.
let me know.
Yeah, he's real bright. He's my nephew, so.
Yeah. So again, depending on his training or level of training, we can hook him up.
Yeah,
and
he's
we can help him out.
sharp.
Yeah.
Sharp guy. So, other than your two, no, I don't want to.
No, don't do that.
No, I don't.
I
wanna
know
do
where
that.
you're going.
Yeah, I don't want.
What other ones should people go to?
Yeah,
It all depends on what you're looking for, because there are conferences for everybody.
Yeah.
Depending on what you want.
yeah, I guess.
You know, and they all do a good job.
Yeah, they do.
Some just don't. They don't work well for me as to sponsor.
Yeah,
So I don't
right.
return that.
Right.
Some of it is I've seen some of the people speak or some of the content to
Right.
me. I've gotten everything I can get out of that conference. So
Right.
I personally start going to conferences that are either outside of automotive,
Yeah,
or
we
I
gotta do
want to
more
go
of
to
that.
Josh's one. Assuming I already penciled it in to go see his BDC Raw to support him.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, man.
And then
Sharp
there's
dude.
another training for someone who's doing some stuff that I want to go just see, one for part education for
Yeah,
me. And,
yeah.
you know, so I think it would also behoove some marketing managers in automotive to go to some conferences outside of automotive, because it allows you to just
agree.
hear a different edge of marketing.
Yeah.
That could potentially just go, oh, I never
Yeah.
thought about that, because
Yeah.
there are so many similarities.
Yeah.
But there are some little edges and approaches and
It's
differences.
funny. Conferences outside of our industry are more expensive to go to than the ones in our industry.
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, because they are, you know, again, thing is, it's an interesting thing. Sometimes I think automotive dealers, they know it, but they don't act like they're a multi-million-dollar business.
Sure,
Right?
right.
You know, if you're working for
Very
this
true,
big
man.
company and they're going, well, it's going to be $1,500 or $2,000 to send you to conference. They're like, oh yeah, that's a good go. And you're going $2,000.
Right,
You know,
right,
You know, but
right.
I also think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that sense of, if I'm going to invest in you $2,000, send you a conference, am I guaranteed you're going to still be here?
Right.
Right? God
Yeah.
forbid I invest in you and then
I
2
know.
weeks later you leave.
Yeah, it's a booger.
Well, it was interesting. I said this dealer I was speaking to the other day, and I pointed out some things on the site. That was the one with the page.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, we had a guy. Now, I don't know if it was his guy who was, or somebody that locally he was using. But now they got, are doing stuff for other dealers. And he goes, but I thought I was. And he goes, now I feel like I'm down a level of attention. So that happens with some dealers is, well, what happens if I invest in you as my marketing person and all of a sudden you get headhunted out by someone else?
Right.
But I think that's the wrong way to think about it, because
Right.
what if you stay and I don't train you, right?
Yeah,
And
of course.
then I'm losing that.
Right,
So,
right.
but you're right. There's some, I look at stuff because the National Speakers Association conferences, some of these training conferences, I look at it, I go, whoa, look at
Right?
that price point.
I know.
$3,500.
I know.
I was like,
and I
yeah.
want to go.
I know.
To those things. I'd love, and for Joe to go would be just, really important. But
Yeah, but
to
got
go to a Robbins event,
Yeah.
talk about big money or whatever it might be, or whomever. Let me take yourself out of owning a couple conferences.
Yes.
Take yourself out of it for a minute.
Okay.
Your thoughts on because you do it the other way as well. Thoughts on negotiating with the conference, the head of the conference on your booth space. They want X amount of dollars, and you say, you know what, that's too much. I'll give you. Making it a car deal, negotiating.
I think
on
it
space.
all depends. If I sell out my space, if I'm the event host,
Right.
and I sell out my space,
Right.
right?
Right.
Think about NADA. They don't negotiate.
No, they don't.
They're oversold all the time.
Right.
So pay the piper. Now,
Right.
if I don't, and I'm running stuff at the very end, you might turn around and say, well, listen, I can pay you X.
Right.
If for some reason at the end someone cancels, I'm good up to the last minute. As long as you give me a week before the event, I can be there. And if you're willing to take, now they may turn around and say, well, I'd rather take that
Right.
50%
Yeah.
than nothing and have an empty booth. Okay.
That happened to me at Digital one year where we got in too late, and then they, the girls that used to be there no longer there called me back, said, Craig, look, we had a cancellation, and
we'll take what you offered.
Right.
And that's fine. But if you really wanted to go to the conference, then just suck it up.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. I'm just not sure. It feels slimy to me. When I make them an offer, it feels slimy to me. I feel like I'm being slimy. It's like, why should I ask for a discount?
There's a difference between going in purposely to grind you versus saying that's a little out of my ballpark. This is my budget.
Those are two different things, for sure.
If for some reason somebody cancels or you have something open at that price point,
Better
I'd
way
be
to
more
handle
than
it.
willing to do this.
Yeah.
I just can't afford that. This is outside of my budget. I think that's respectful to say
Yeah.
I'm interested. I just can't do this.
Yeah.
I've had people call us up and say, hey, are you going to come to this conference? I said, I have my marketing budget, for conferences, and it's already pegged out, and I don't have that. And they'll say, well, if I get something or really low or whatever,
Right.
I'm always able to listen to anything. I think if you purposely go in there, I think it's disrespectful. Then why are you going to? How would you feel?
Yeah.
I always say to the vendor, how would you
Flip it.
feel if somebody said, well, no, I'm not going to pay it. I'll give you this.
Right.
Because I only think you're worth this. I'm
Correct.
going to give you this. You'd say, get out of here.
Right. Yeah.
So do you want to be there or not? If you see the value of it, pay them, let them go.
Right.
Listen, I'd negotiate for, do we get to pick our own spot?
Right.
What spot do I have open?
Right,
Can
yeah.
I get over here?
Right.
Can I get that? I'm all for negotiation placement on the floor,
Right.
but I'm
And
not
you can't do that. You can't do that and ask for the booth space to be reduced as well.
No, you get
As a matter of fact,
either-
it's going to probably
either
backfire.
go or don't go.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Good.
If you're going to nickel and dime, that
I
means
agree.
you really don't. You're going to complain the whole time and think the whole thing's miserable anyway, and you're just good. That's bad vibes
Right.
going into a conference anyway. You should be. This is valuable. This is worth it. I
Right.
know I got to pony up the price.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now I got to go out and sell
Yeah.
more to make it worth my while.
I got to agree. And let me ask you this, and this is kind of a loaded question, but most of the conferences are, for lack of a better way to put it, pay to speak. A lot of them. Most of the speakers are paying for that privilege.
Yep.
So, and I've spoken at whatever, it's countless.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I am the youngest man in the car industry,
Your glow.
right, my aloe glow. Chronologically, I'm just several months older than you are.
Correct.
So in an effort to, AutoMax is going to go on forever. So in trying to get so many people reach out to me. It's like, hey, Craig, I need, just because of longevity,
Right.
just, and whatever. People reach out to me. So, I get hit by a truck tomorrow. That would be a bad thing. So we've been trying to, and I want to get, obviously Joe does most of the heavy lifting between him and Ernie, and our team is freaking ridiculous. We're just, no baloney, just unbelievable.
Right.
In 22 years, the best group of 30-some people we've ever had. It's unreal. But I want the car industry, to get to know him more.
Mm-hmm. So
instead of, hey, Craig, I need, it's like, hey, Joe, I need. In your opinion, and this is, I'm just talking, just us girls here. Pay the money, get him to as many conferences as possible, hand pick them. He's
Well, for me-
developed into a real good speaker. He really
Well,
knows his stuff
so
and
there's
forth.
my hang up. You hit on something earlier where just because you have good content doesn't mean you're always a good speaker. I don't think I'm a bad speaker, but we had Corey Mosley on, and yourself. We talked to a lot of people on the show. Matt's phenomenal, brings a ton of energy.
Yeah.
They're really good. It's a craft. It's a skill. It's an acquired skill that you have to work at, and I'm not there yet. So to go up on stage at a main stage in the main room for a big conference.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even talking about that so much. Just the ones,
General
the couple
general
we've done.
exposure.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you
and
listen,
you're selling yourself short, but
No,
that's
but
a whole
I
other thing. But
there's nothing that you've done right now today, just sitting here talking, that would say you can't put a thought together. You're not a good
Right.
speaker.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The problem is that everybody gets caught up into that energy.
Right.
right,
I'll bet you anything if you stood on stage and started talking about what you do, you'd get excited and you would have zero problem generating energy.
No, that does
Right.
happen. Yeah.
oh yeah, and
it's
he has
more-
spoken, and it's
No, my point is that
Good.
if your thought is when I get on stage, it's not about me. See, because you worry about how people are going to perceive you. The tip for
Sure.
you is
Yeah, we
whenever
all
you're
do
on
that.
stage, it's not about you. I'm
No one
here to
cares.
educate you.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even
Right.
that. Yeah, they care. I mean, you care, but if your focus is, I just want to share something with you, I want to help you, it gets you out of your head and focused on the audience. That's the first tip. And then the rest of it, because you move through the day talking to people and you're not going, oh, I hope they like me. You just talk.
right.
Now, in terms of branding, yes, you have to look at it and say, okay, over the next year. So here's the key. You say to yourself, a year from now, not tomorrow, not it. I want visibility, right? So when Brian and I first started, Brian was the voice of PCG.
Yeah.
I pushed him out and said,
Right.
go.
Right.
And I ran the day-to-day stuff and said,
Right.
over time, I've said, well, I have to get out here now because
Yes.
I have a viewpoint.
Right.
And now people, as Brian would say, now people know you and say, oh, Glenn's a better speaker than you. We joke about it. But I have mine, and Denise had mine, right? So we used to joke when we would walk down NADA, it would be Brian and everybody else behind. Then it was Brian and me side by side. Then it was Brian, me, and Mark. And then Brian, me, Mark, and Dan. And right, so you spread out, and that's
Interesting.
PCG, right? Denise has her own brand. So for you, it should be, what do I have to say about this? Not trying to be you,
Right.
just what's my opinion about hiring and struggles and
Right.
training, and
Right.
then just commit to say, I know you're doing your 5 at 5, right?
Yeah.
So you say, great, but look at the image and say, what's the brand? What's it look like? So is it going to be more professional or is it going to be just casual 5-on-5? That's fine. But then you commit, like if you look at Corey has his,
Right.
he has a certain image. Corey's not going to show up all the time in a t-shirt.
Correct.
Corey's either got the button down,
Yeah.
he's much more, I don't want to say preppy, but you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah.
he's put together.
Yeah, it's
Right.
a studio, and he's in a studio.
Well,
and
whatever he's in,
Yeah.
it's consistent.
typically, yeah.
It's a consistent message, and
Right.
it's like, that's Corey.
Right.
Right? So if you're saying, this is my 5 at 5, right?
Right.
Just like you have this here. You came
Right.
here. It's not wherever I am, even if you're away. You then just say, every week I'm going to create some sort of form of content, right? I'm going to create an article, and then I'm going to talk about it on the 5 at 5, or we're going to talk about it in this, or I'm going to do a short video to say, hey, I just released a new, like that's what I've been testing, and now it's going back to being more
Right.
consistent of on Mondays or Tuesdays, I usually have my article to my team by Friday. They look at it and edit it to make sure I'm, it's nicer. They give it back to me with images. Tuesday I post it, or they post it on PCG, and then I start sharing it. And usually on Tuesday, then I'll create a short video that'll say, hey, I'm talking about this, and then I just put it in the spin cycle and just keep pushing out.
Right.
I want to do more videos. But that's what all of a sudden, just like you said, hey, I read your article. I had a lot of people at NADA going, oh, I read that article you write, or I saw that video, or you were on that podcast. So for you now, then it's leveraging the network of saying, everybody who came on who has a podcast, you flip it. Corey, when can I be on your podcast? Jason Harris, when can I be on your podcast,
Right.
Right.
I want you to interview me about this.
Right.
And now over the course of the year, you just commit to it. You just commit to it, say, I'm going to write, and I'm going to have a video, and a year from now, and then just make sure that your marketing person is also taking it and just continuing to retweet and post it multiple times, putting it on LinkedIn, putting it everywhere. Just one time's not going to be enough. And then go backwards and say, hey, this was the article. I had a lot of great comments about this.
Right.
And then a year from now, all of a sudden, people start going, hey, you have great opinions about this. You have good articles and good content. Then start strategically saying, to your point back about conferences, who's going to let me speak?
Right.
Right? Rockstar? Great. Well, who's in front of Rockstar? Then you turn around and say, is it Digital Dealer? hey, if I'll submit something and you come up with a topic about how, people are going to leverage this. I submit for NADA, right? And you just, anywhere that you could possibly, that somebody's accepting speaker applications, just go do it. Now, the key is have 2 different talks, maybe 3, right? You for a long time were did I hire him dead or did I kill him?
Right.
Right? My thing to you would be, what else is there? Because I've already what happens is if somebody saw it, then the next time you're there, they're going, I already saw him, and you lose your audience.
Correct.
Now, you can spin it. You can talk about that, and you say, if you have 3 or 4 touch points in there, you reorder them or call the title point 2 is the title this time. And so you come up with 2 or 3 talks that are actionable about and that solve problems that dealers have, right? Again, writing things like what are the 5 mistakes you make, or why front loading your training is not the best thing in the world, or what is culture really, right? And you start writing about that, and then you're talking about when you're doing your workshops how to fix it. And don't worry about the main stage, but if somebody's doing a panel, I want to be on the panel, right? Good. Instead of saying I'm sitting on there. But if you're at, let's say, driving sales, and driving sales has a suite now of their human capital management, and they're talking about that, you should be like, hey, can I be on that panel talking about hiring? So they might have 2 dealers who are talking about it. Well, you're the expert from the placement, right? Sure. That's what you want to be known as. Right. When we wanted to be, not right, Hireology has the technology to do certain things, but that's not what you do. Right? Yours like, I can help, but it's almost, I take Hireology's people, or what is it, Auto HR?
Automotive HR.
At Automotive HR. They get everybody to us, and then we take them and we get them in there and we get them into your, right? Explain that process. So that way, if Adam Robinson's up there talking about hiring, how do you attract, how do you do it, how do you use it? You're the handoff. You're like, and then we give them to the team over here at AutoMax, and they train your people and get them going, right? Because Adam and I talked about it when we were doing online classes. He was like, yeah, we get them to the door, then you would, right? And that's you. Those guys get them to the door, and then you're in. Now, you still recruit and do some things, but it's a better way to say, here's how you. Yeah. And I think then a year from now, it's just consistency of seeing your face, seeing your content, people sharing your content, people talking about your content, you being on people's podcast talk. And so again, go finding these podcasts.
That's a good idea.
Adam Robinson had one. I don't know if he still does his podcast, but everybody who has a podcast, just listen. Everybody who's running a podcast is always looking for people.
Yeah, it's true.
You're always looking for people. You're like, who the hell?
Right, yeah.
So there's who else has it? Who else, and even just ask, whose podcast should I be on to talk about this? And all of a sudden they're going to push you people that you didn't even know.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And all of a sudden you're like, yep. And then you're in front of their audience.
Right.
Right? Same thing. Go talk to the associations. You're the voice of AutoMax, and you go out to the associations. Hey, if you're doing a meeting and you're bringing in speakers, I'd like to let you know I'm available to speak about this. Go push yourself out to 20 groups, right? They're always bringing in any of your dealers that really love what you do. Just say, hey, guys, do you have a 20 group that you speak at? Do you think what we did or how we helped you would be valuable to your group?
Right.
They always have a best idea thing. They might turn around and say, well, here's what we did here, and this was great. And then they bring you in and you talk for an hour or two. That's the way you build your visibility in your brand.
Sure.
And it's not at the expense of you.
Right.
It's in addition to you. But that'll just say, I want to be a year from now when I'm walking around, people go, hey, I read your article.
Right.
Oh, I saw you. And it's just methodical, and it's just a commitment to the content. And even if you said, listen, I don't have time to write every single week. It's just not going to happen. Great. Once every 2 weeks.
Well, writing would be easy for me. The getting out there, we got to talk about. That's different because I have I was sitting in the car scribbling notes for 10 minutes before I got out, so I didn't forget everything.
Listen, you got business to run at the end of the day, but you got to look at it and saying that if I get in front of those people, it just gets my name when they have the problem that I solve. They remember me.
Right.
And they remember you as competent.
Right. To give you a very specific, well, I can't because this group doesn't actually exist, right? But there's a group that doesn't actually exist on Facebook.
Okay.
It's a private group that really isn't a group that doesn't exist, like Fight Club. All right, so I don't know, every 2 months, someone will post, anybody know a recruiting company? And I'm telling you, Glenn, I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not bragging. It's just to prove a point how important this is to us. I'm talking about 35 comments with my name in it.
Right.
I mean, like, I'm not sure anybody suggested to anybody else. It was like, it was almost, I had to laugh. I mean, it was like ridiculous. I went in there and said, look, love you guys, but this is like ridiculous and amazing and it's wonderful. And it became a deal, actually. That I need that transferred over to Joe.
Yeah, but
I don't want to lose that
But
audience.
you can't transfer that to him. That's the point. He has to come out from behind the scenes
that's what
as
I mean.
a person.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
As another face,
Right.
right? Same thing. I came out and because people will go, oh, yeah, you do this. Now people know that Brian and I talk about different things. We
Right.
still talk about marketing.
Right.
We talk about building your dealership end to end. But Brian will say, Glenn handles more process and people. Brian's more the marketer. And so together we can solve more problems. And Denise has her brand. So it's not at your expense. It's just going to be a year from now of consistent work of having a viewpoint. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like, oh, the both of you.
Right.
The both of you.
And you know what the main takeaway for me is from all this? Is that I'm going straight from here to Nordstrom and to Men's Warehouse with the company credit card and building up my wardrobe.
There you go.
I mean, that was the main thing that I heard from all of that.
That's what I said is like,
Yeah,
hey, you
I heard you
Clothes.
talking about clothes. I'm like, well, shit, I guess
Right.
it's time to go shopping. No,
Yeah.
but I really appreciate that. It's everything you said is dead on. And it
Yeah.
makes sense because we're very different people. We're like-minded in a lot of ways in our goals and, of course, the vision for the company. But just personality-wise, we're very different people. So I don't think that would be – it wouldn't be a one-to-one exchange anyway because we're saying different things.
Kind
represent
of a different audience.
Different eras, different
well,
audience.
this is 1 + 1 = 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it is. All you're saying is that I have an opinion too, and here's what we're
Right.
doing, and I'm seeing stuff because, again, you're out in the field, you're talking about things, you're listening to the dealers, and you're going, here's something that we're dealing with. So
Right.
all you're doing is having another I mean, it's no different than Anthony's doing.
Sure.
Right.
Right? Anthony's making a name for himself in terms of visibility because he's consistently out there and people go, oh, I know you.
Right.
That's all it is. It just takes time
Right.
and consistency.
right.
It does.
And you can't worry about it. You just got to say, I mean, we've been doing this. Brian and I have been doing this. Like I said, I've been doing it for 10 years, like hardcore push. In the last 5 years, pushing my own brand out just because I said I never want to be in a position where if I decide to go in a different direction or whatever, or Brian and I, whatever it is, because the last company
Are
I
you
was
leaving?
with,
You wanna
no,
announce that now?
no, not at all.
Okay,
We're
well,
actually
just-
we're excited. We got so much work to do. No, my point is that at one job that I had when I left, I was so attached to the job, or the job defined me. I didn't know what I would do. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I said that's
can relate.
never going to happen to me again.
a great point.
Where I joke, it's
very
like
good.
if I said I was leaving tomorrow. My phone would ring. I'd have 20 people going, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to come? Right? That's just people. So same thing for you is that you should be right now. Even people may not remember the name, but they go, oh, it's that guy, Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
right.
always in he wears the black.
Right.
But that's my point is
It all comes back to wardrobe.
it comes
throwing
back.
it
You
out
need
there.
wardrobe. So the point is you
Thanks,
have to
Glenn. This is gonna
now.
cost you
Jody,
thousands
I'm
of
apologizing to our controller in
Yes,
advance.
right now.
Right.
I
Go ahead.
apologize.
Yeah.
To blame it on me. So you got to look at it and say, a year from now, how do I just putting it out there? It's good content. It's helpful content, and then finding ways to visibly be in front of people, right? And it's not all about the short term of I'm going to sign business today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's not.
But
to us,
Brian and I would not be
specifically.
in the position we are with having some interest from manufacturers. We've been working with Nissan for the past year or other one, right? We wouldn't have that if we didn't do the groundwork of 12 years or more
Right.
of writing and speaking at conferences and hosting conferences and making mistakes and it's just, but people know Brian.
Right.
People always go, they joke, confuse us, but
Yeah,
they
right.
know who we are. Joe Gillespie of Dealer E used to always say, well, you don't need to, everyone knows who you are.
Yeah.
You walk through NADA and
Yeah.
people go, I know who they are.
Yeah, I will
interesting
say,
you
I
say
mean, we
that.
talk to an insane amount. We've joked before that we probably talk to more dealers over the course of the year than any other vendor company. All
Yeah.
talk about the
Right,
OEM
Cox,
level
right,
guys,
yeah.
right? So anyway, but
Other than Cox, you're probably right.
yeah. So, but when your name comes up and your company's name comes up, that's the one where almost across the board, yeah, we know them.
We've
Yeah,
heard,
yeah.
heard of them.
Right.
All
we
the
know
time.
them. But that's just putting yourself out there with content that's
Right.
helpful,
Right.
or you have an opinion about something. So for you, you want to say, listen, where am I want to be in a year? And where is it going to be in 2 years? And where is it going to be in 5 years? Where now it's, oh, I didn't know you both do that. Or, oh, you're also involved in that. And then
Right.
it's just all of a sudden they're going to go, I like you, but I like you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then you tag team and say, no, you need to work with this dealer.
Sure.
You're better with it. Or
Right.
you might, no, you need to go talk to them. I just think that's where you elevate it and don't worry about it in terms of, well, it's not happening. It'll happen in 3 years. It'll happen in 2 years. It'll happen because eventually there's going to be enough content out there. Your marketing person keeps sharing it. You're at conferences, you're on calls. People are going to recommend. It's just that also you have to just push yourself, like I said, and ask your dealers to say, is there any, flat out ask every one of your dealers, is there anyone in your 20 group that would benefit from what we do?
Yeah, and we don't
Right.
do that. We should.
It's
No,
groundwork,
we
and
should,
that's
yeah.
where the speaking comes in.
Yeah,
Well-
because 20 groups have been
well,
great
what's,
for us.
I was going to say,
what
what's silly is how many we probably get 5 referrals a month of, where'd you hear? I don't know, somebody at my 20 group. We don't even know where it came from.
Right.
I don't know.
No
Someone at the 20
clue.
group was talking
But
about it.
then
Right.
you turn around to your clients and just, I would say for you guys all to do, one of the best things to do is just call them up or send an email to your top clients, take your top 20 clients that you have a good relationship with and just flat out ask them and say, are you part of a 20 group? Some of them, if they have multiple dealerships, they're in a 20 group, they've got in a Chrysler 20 group, they're in a Honda 20 group, they're in a Ford 20 group. You say, hey, do you guys bring speakers in? Do you think
Yeah.
what we talk about, do you think this might be a good topic?
Yeah.
Or something they might say, I don't know, bring it up at the next meeting, or I'll bring it up best idea meeting or whatever.
Right.
That's how we got into this one. This person saw Brian speak at a Comcast event. They said, I think that would be great. He came back and talked about it in his idea. Next thing you know, they reached
Right.
out to both of us and I
Right.
said, I can do it. Brian's not here. They're like, absolutely.
Right.
Went in, supposed to only speak for 2 hours, spoke for 3 hours.
Right.
And they were like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So for you guys, you just have to ask, right? You
Yeah.
got to ask more to just recommend. Do you have a 20 group that you
Yeah.
have? Do you know anybody that would benefit from this? They might say, oh, yeah, you know what? I do that.
Yeah.
And then just write. And then go ask everybody you know that has a podcast.
Yeah.
Get on Frank's podcast. Get
Yeah.
on even Anthony's podcast. Get on
Yeah.
Katie Mayers has a podcast.
Yeah.
Jason Harris has a podcast. Glenn Lundy has a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. Matt has a podcast.
You're going to have a
I'm going to have a podcast. So that's what I'm saying is that you turn around and you just say, hey, do you need to get Corey Mosley? Do you need anybody? Even if it's like, well, not right now. And you say, well, let me know. And then just stay on them. So what
Yeah.
if you talk on Corey's in May? Who cares?
Right.
The fact is, by that time, your message will be more honed.
Right.
You practice it more. You have more content under your belt. The other thing is, just like you did, hey, I want to talk to you. I read these articles. How do you think CBT calls me up? CBT every once in a while, John or Jim Fitzpatrick will,
Yeah.
somebody will say, hey, Jim wants to interview you about this article. So you put yourself out to CBT. You send tips of the day. You see Mark Tewart's,
Right.
mine. I film them at my office and just, here's your tip of the day. And boom, boom, boom. I send them down and they push it out.
Yeah.
You guys could be talking about tips of the day. I'll
Yeah.
guarantee you they will take your stuff in 2 seconds because they want that. You
Yeah.
talk to Jim and say, do you need content for your magazine?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
probably
there's
should do
nobody,
that.
I'll tell you, there's nobody on his thing talking about people.
No.
Yeah, right.
I came down, Brian had me down to Atlanta. Oh, gosh, it's probably been 3 years ago.
Yep,
now or
for his
so.
show.
Yeah, his show.
But that's what I'm saying is Brian went down. I sent Brian down. I was talking to Jim and I said, oh, Brian's just wrote a book. One of the books he wrote a while ago. And they said, oh, and he happened to be down there. Next thing you know, Brian comes back. I got a TV show with him. I'm like,
Right.
how the hell did you end up with a TV show? He goes, oh, he asked me if I do it and I do it.
Yeah.
And he would go down once a month
Yeah.
and film all four
Yeah.
of them.
They're such nice people. Him and his wife seem so nice to
They're
me,
great
man.
people. But
Yeah.
my point is they're always looking for content.
Right.
So
Of
that's
course.
that's an avenue for you to say, hey, if I sent you some
Right.
tips of the day on human capital, training or how to hire, would that be useful to you? They might say, well, send me a couple options. Next thing you know, On Twitter, it's here's CBT's tip of the day with,
Right. Joe Lockard. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
right? AutoMax Recruiting, Joe Lockard, and then there you are,
Yeah.
right?
The
And
writing will be easy for me. I actually write all of my lives out. We talked about how Matt did a live talking about how people just get out and throw
Wing
junky
it.
lives out there. So I put a ton of prep into my lives. I mean,
course.
it's
But
completely.
just think about that. You already have the
Turn it
content.
into an article. It's really
turn
easy.
it into an
That's
article.
right. And, that,
Yeah.
and what we've made a concerted effort, and it's really paying off because we have Danielle Burke now with what's is called the Recruiter Corner. It gets a lot of views. Joe's 5 at 5. Ernie's Recruit to Retain, which is what's he called that? 11 for 11 or something like that. But so, and Anthony's show, of course, is getting a
Sure.
lot of
Yeah, like you
traction.
said, just different voices and different
Well, it's just you
viewpoints,
have to
different
say,
angles.
I'm just going to write the way I think and what
Yeah.
I have,
Yeah.
and it's just consistency.
Yeah.
And then, Gary Vaynerchuk always says, and one of his quotes I always thought, well, like, that was pretty smart. It's really about, it's 20% of the content, and then it's focusing 80% on distribution.
Yeah.
Right? That's really the key. It's the distribution channel. So how often am I pushing it out on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter? And what's that soup of consistency? And then it's, well, I got to get, who else can distribute my content? Well, CBT can distribute if I do a
Yeah,
good
I hadn't
job.
thought of that. That's a really good
Yeah,
catch,
third-party
dude.
distributions. Great
Well,
idea.
because they have
Yeah.
it on their website, and
Yeah.
then Jim, like I said, he'll call me up and do a Skype, and we'll
Yeah.
do a interview, and next thing you know, he's chopping that up, and here's my article.
Yeah. We should also, speaking of all of it, I mean, we should do something with Villa, with Auto Dealer Live,
If you just
Every
make
Thursday.
yourself available, you got to make it, think about it. You like people who call you up and say, hey, if you're looking for people, I'm available. You're like, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
you got to let people know you're available.
Right.
Because they're trying to Dave's
Right.
doing his show, just trying to figure out who am I going to have on. But if you
Right.
raised your hand and said,
Makes it a
hey,
lot
when
easier
you're
for him.
talking about
That's right, dude.
this,
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy. All you need to do is give me a week's notice, and I'd be more than happy
Yeah.
to be on. Right? Boom. And then you just look at who else has that distribution. As I said, Frank is starting to build an audience, and all these other folks are constantly on there. Why not? Eventually, this spreads out, and as I said, a year from now, where do you want to be?
All right. Let me ask you this question. And I'm assuming this happens to you, but I'm not certain. And this is, I want to make sure we try to make this somewhat interesting for our automotive audience, the people who actually are working retail. This happens to me a lot.
Okay.
So someone will call me and say, hey, Craig, I need to put together a whatever, or I'm looking to hire a whatever. Now I am constantly TOing them. My reply is always something along the lines of, hey, thanks so much for thinking of us. Really appreciate you. Either my son Joe, director of operations, who's a partner, or Ernie, our general manager, who's also a partner. They handle the day-to-day. They're in their teams. What's the best number for them to reach out to you? And we'll get it handled. Go team. Something like that. And I TO everything.
Right.
Do you run across that? And it's not that obviously I can
Listen,
handle it. But,
my team handles everything.
All right.
I give it to my team. My team.
right, but the lead comes to you.
It
or the
depends. Some do.
interest.
Some go right around to the. Some come
Yeah.
right to the website.
But the ones that do come to you.
Well, I'll
in other-
start the conversation. I usually will start the conversation, and then I will hand it off to the team to say, well, let's do a presentation to you. Let's
Okay.
get the team together for
Right.
you.
Right.
But, same thing. That dealer
Right.
that was talking to me the other day, he called me up because I
Right.
started the relationship.
Right.
And then he called me up and he said, I want to talk to you about stuff. I said, send me your websites. Let me take a look. Blah, 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 blah. We had a half an hour, 40-minute conversation. Then I said, listen, I'll send you some pricing. Take a look. Let's circle back on Monday, and then we can dive in,
Yeah.
And then at that time, I'll,
Yeah.
either it goes one of two ways. If they sign it right away, they're like, done, we want to go,
Right.
then I'll take care of it. And then
Right.
push. If not, I
Yeah,
hand it
there's
over
some
to
of those,
I
yeah.
hand it over to sales and say, you
Right.
follow up on this. I
Okay.
started the conversation.
Yeah.
But I need them to understand is that the team's going to be your point.
Right.
I'm going to be involved,
Right.
but I'm not running your day to day.
Right.
That's my team.
Right. And that's my, there's a couple of reasons I do it that way, but that's part of it. And it's not unlike, if general manager of a dealership, someone comes in and sees him,
They hand it over to
typically
somebody.
they're going to turn it.
Sure,
So, yeah.
absolutely.
All right, I got to piss. Joe, would you We got to get Automotive HR.
Sure, but
and
I'm leaving when
Mr.
you
Gr-
come back.
Yeah, well, we have a dead stop at 2, right?
We have a dead stop at 2, so we get a half an hour more of
All right, good. I got good.
joyous stuff.
All right, I still got more I want to cover. So.
All right. I'm not using this.
All right, then.
I'm winging it.
Be that way.
I'm
You just said you don't wing it. Now you're winging it.
for these sponsor spots. So I know
Oh,
Steven
so
and I
you're
know Automotive
sponsored.
HR. So it's
He
easier
won an
for me.
award,
He did for it was the second time with you guys, right?
What kind of award?
AWA award.
We should get one of those.
We should get one. Yeah, like it. Yeah, just like they're for order. Get out of here.
So let's talk
All right.
about Automotive HR, another one of our sponsors. You know Steven yourself personally, as
Yes,
you
I
just
do.
mentioned, recent recipient of the AWA. Does a great job and really, you mentioned hierology, and it's comparable to that, but where Steven's really taken it to the next level here in the past year is creating a full-on HR management portion of his recruiting portal, if you will. So now it's not just finding the people and they start. And you mentioned how Adam said, okay, we get them to the store and then it's there you go. Now what? His is walking them all the way through it into
hierology
onboarding.
may because that was a long time ago, so I don't want to make.
Well, no, so they
look-
do. We're pretty familiar with them because of my affiliation with Steven, but they white label a lot of their stuff. So they're working with I think KPA, maybe not KPA. Complete. One of the other HR companies out there has kind of partnered up with them. Steven created his entire thing. It's all his. It's included in the price that you pay for the platform, and it's impressive. He walked me through it, and it's funny. I changed my pitch because we obviously are partnered with them, so we resell to our clients and use the software when it's applicable for recruiting. We don't use it for the HR side of it, of course, because we're not an HR company, but. I've steered my pitch more towards talking about the HR side of it because it's just that impressive as far as managing your employees, training your employees. It's really impressive stuff. I'm glad my dad picked me. I wish he was in here. I got to run back through this when he gets in. Steven's actually in the hospital right now. I just talked to him yesterday. He fell ill. I don't think it's anything too serious, but if everybody could just say a few words for Steven. He's a hell of a guy and a personal friend of mine, and aside from it just being a great product, he's just an awesome human being, and it's a pleasure to.
Was it the flu or?
I don't really know. We didn't talk real long.
I just saw him.
We were
He
talking.
was
Yeah,
just
we were talking business, and he said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to get to that today. I'm in the hospital." So it's like, okay, a little more info. He's like, nothing big. So anyway, I'm sure he's fine. But I just wanted to put that out there. But if anyone is interested in the Automotive HR recruiting and HR management software, please contact me. You can contact Steven directly, but if you come through me, I'll give you a nice little discount. You can get us on the website, or you can contact me personally.
There you go. Who else do we have here? Hold on. Let's see who else for your sponsors. Who did he do? Rockstar, he did.
We did Rockstar. The other two are Dealer World and Tacobi. I'll let him get into those. I'm knocking out one. I'll save the other ones for him. But I didn't know we were doing the hard cutoff it too.
Yeah, I have to pick up my son. My wife, my father-in-law had a little episode. Didn't know if he had a stroke, but he had some sort of seizure, so she flew down to Puerto Rico to go help her mom. And so I am on dad duty, and I must go pick up my son from school.
Funny, that's why I'm leaving early. I got the father-daughter dance tonight, so I got to go knock out like 2 hours of work before that starts at 4:35. I was ready to leave. I was going to leave at 1. Then you guys started talking about me. I'm like, oh, well, I guess I should hang around.
I guess we should. Well, it's better to talk about you in front of your face than after you leave. Okay, he's gone now. We can talk about him.
But I'm totally going to Nordstrom and Men's Warehouse and buying new clothes.
Yeah, I would think.
I've been saying I've mentioned this to him, and I mentioned the
because
black suit thing. It matters. That stuff matters.
It does if that's your brand, but it's more for you. When I was looking at some of your 5 of 5s, is the fact that it's. What I love about it, it's casual.
Well, and that was intentional. That was not just a.
But it's finding. There's another friend of mine who started her podcast, and I said, what I learned from Corey, and that's why mine's been a little bit delayed, is getting some things organized and I was traveling, is a consistent backdrop of saying this. So somebody goes, that's Corey's. Now, Corey can go do it somewhere else or whatever, just as an odd one. But same thing, this woman was doing hers, and I just said, take consideration of consistency behind you. So she had a bookshelf behind her, and I said, just make sure, good for placement. Same for you. It's just visually because sometimes it's up this way.
Yeah.
Right. It's up instead of here. And
I
then
know.
also it's very tan behind you because it looks like your kitchen or
It's,
somewhere.
it's my office. It's the wall. And
Right. So again, it's deciding if that's where it's going to be, then how do I...
That's a great point. And I thought about this. So here's the problem I have with that is I use the phone. I'd rather use my computer because it catches, because my office is actually a pretty awesome setup. So
Right.
there's Cleveland sports stuff all over the wall. My guitar's in the corner. It's a nice little backdrop aside from the awful tan walls. We bought this, the paint in this house that we bought. The entire house.
That's why I was saying
looks
to
like
him
a
is
Pueblo.
I'm
It's awful.
when I told my wife, because I was going to do mine in the basement, but it's too echoey. She
Yeah.
said we're going to use the office. She's like, well, this wall needs. So I had to repaint the walls.
Yeah.
Had to do it all, and then it was, oh well, we're going to get some. We need some new furniture for you.
Right,
and
but so I'm kind of torn between that because the video quality is actually better on my phone than it is on my laptop. But the laptop gets a better scene, a better
Well,
panorama.
so what I was saying to Craig, what I use, because I'm horrible technical, like I am not a technical person. So the thought of using cameras just freaks me out. So I had, I did at a digital dealer, there's a company called Padcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically what they do is his pitch was, iPads are 4K and they're all really great. So he gives you a little, this little
It's kind of
setup on
best
top
of both
of
worlds.
and you just pop your iPad in, so then the iPad gets the whole thing, right? And that way you just film it, and then you can, however you want
That's
to
good.
edit away.
That's a good
but
idea.
for you, it is that I like the content, but shooting up like this versus right here, and then the big white behind you. So you're right. That's what I'm saying is as you move for that, so it's a consistent message of, his was the dark suit, and that doesn't have to be yours. His was the dark suit sitting in the chair, the recruiter, the scary
Yeah.
dude sitting in the chair, But for you, I love the casualness of it, but you have to be careful that it doesn't look so off the cuff that no one's going to take it seriously. Versus, hey, it's your 5 at 5, but it's a, see what I'm saying?
Standard.
Like even this, you got the bricks behind you. It gives some texture where you go, oh, they're there. That I'm in the right place over time.
Right. Well, I think I do have to
interesting.
switch to the computer for the time being until we upgrade to the iPad then, because it will capture. I was telling him that the backdrop's actually pretty cool in my office.
Yeah.
You just can't see it when you're on the phone because
Right.
I film up and down. It's just a small
Right.
small capture.
Right.
The other thing is the reason I'm standing. I work at a stand-up desk. I don't sit. I'm sitting.
Which is fine.
Terrible.
No, it wasn't that. It's just that, again, when your camera's there,
Yeah, it's
either,
the phone. It's the phone filming.
But even if the phone is, there are stands where, again, I've had a small stand, but I end up putting it on a box up high so it looks at me in the face, because if not, then
Yeah, I
it's
do the
shooting
same
up
thing.
It's
on
up
my head.
underneath, right.
Yeah.
Right now,
Right.
there are some where they have those ring lights.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they'll-
You
and
should.
they have-
We should probably invest in that for you.
Yeah.
There's one.
Marcus Stone uses that at his show.
I'll
It's
send
pretty good.
you the ring light I had that I ordered, because what it also has is it has a clip inside the ring that you can put
Your phone.
your phone.
Right.
So this way and then it's adjustable, so you can
Right.
go up. So that way, again,
Right.
shooting up like this always makes everybody look horrible.
Right,
Right.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
jowly
nose
and all
hair.
the rest.
Right.
So
Because
it's
it's funny. I do the same thing. I'm stacking. If people saw the setup underneath
Yeah.
my phone and my tripod, it's hilarious.
I know.
It's my wife's math books. There's like algebra books stacked on.
So that's what I'm
stacked
saying. But
underneath
the
it.
ring light will help you with some light. They're adjustable, light on your face. They
Sure.
have clips for different colors on them. It was very reasonable. But like I said, then by
Yeah, it's
and
good
then
advice.
even if but I would turn it sideways. I wouldn't do it
Yeah.
length. Turn it sideways, because then you'll get a little more width.
You know what I struggle with that? When you turn it sideways, the lens is over here. So you have to make a
Look,
conscious effort to
So
look over here to the
here's
left.
a
It
tip
drives
for
me
that. So
nuts.
here's a tip for that is take a piece of tape. Just
where the camera is.
Just
and
put a
stare
piece
at
of tape on that end there and
to
look at it.
dry
That's
your
why.
eyeball.
That's why the iPad, this iPaster, Padcaster, has a teleprompter.
Did
little
you write that
clip
down,
on,
Padcaster?
I'll send you the link. There's a clip on it where you can slide your phone in it, but the key is the clip goes right over top of the lens, so you have to look at it if you're looking at the
Right.
thing, so you're not over
That's
here.
good.
But I used to do the same thing. I would play around with it. I'd shoot tests, and then I would end up just putting a piece of tape
That's a
here.
good idea.
So that way I always look at the piece of tape.
Right.
Because I'm going early over there. Look at the tape.
You end up
Because
looking
your
cross-eyed.
eyes are over here, going like, who are they talking to?
So I only did automotive HR.
Yeah,
We got
okay.
kind of sidetracked. Steven's in the hospital right now. I didn't mention it to you. I was mentioning it to you.
Whoa.
I don't think it's anything serious, but we hadn't talked about it
Him
yet.
and his wife both are having issues?
Steven's okay. I don't think it's anything
Okay.
major. He's fine. But
right.
So that means you have
I
to
just-
do Dealer World and Tacobi for
I just mentioned out there.
sponsorship.
But yeah, you got the other two, man. So
All right.
we got sidetracked.
Dealer World and Tacobi are awesome.
There you go. That's what you're paying for, Jason and Troy.
right.
That's it.
That's what you guys get. We got to raise your fees, by the way. All the sponsors.
We talk about
Fee
Dealer
raise.
World if you want to real quick. Because
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation with Hunter this week for a while.
Yeah.
So we had Hunter on recently.
Awesome company.
That was good. That was the first time I had even had a conversation with Hunter.
He's great. I just
Yeah.
saw him
He's a
out at
smart
NADS.
It's fun to talk to,
guy.
man.
Very smart.
A lot of stuff came up. It was
He's cool.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, I had a blast with him in here.
Yeah, it was fun. A lot of fun. So I know Troy prides himself on calling himself a performance agency, not an advertising agency. And as I've talked to Hunter and gotten the full scope of some of the things that they do and offer for clients, I think it definitely fits the bill. Hunter hits more on the tech aspect of it, and Troy does a lot of relationship management,
They're
on-site
great.
stuff.
They're
Like,
great. I've
we've all seen
recommended
the
when-
van, and we've all seen him out on the road. You talk about staying local, and Troy doesn't care.
No, and I've told people have called me up, what do you think about them? And I'm like, you should hire them, and they go, but he's a competitor of yours. I was like, he's not a competitor of ours.
I know.
Like, there's enough
Isn't
for
that
everybody.
weird where
There's enough for everybody. So
Yeah.
I recommend him. I say he does more than we do, because he can do traditional and things of that nature.
Right.
And his style of how he works.
right, totally
I said
different.
It's just different, right?
Well, it's a little different, but I think he takes care of people. So
Yeah,
I always
does.
recommend him. I think he's
Yeah.
great. He's one
We've-
of my best friends. I love him to death, and I think with
Awesome.
how he approaches business and his client service and the experience he wants, it goes back to the experience he wants for his clients. Again, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, his growth's been phenomenal and continuing in that direction. He's just he's
Well, I think
doing
that
everything right.
It's funny. He and I talk. We always joke that we sort of run parallel lives at times. Where if I'm having something, I'll talk to him to just vent, and he goes, "I'm going through the same thing." He goes, "I think we just are parallel." And I said, maybe."
Yeah.
But he said he's had some growth, and we just had some growth,
Yeah.
good growth in December, January.
good.
I think it's interesting. I think there's this movement, I think, of people wanting to find, I don't want to say smaller agencies, but they want to get away from these big ones where they feel that
think.
they're getting their hands, that I can reach out to somebody, I can talk
Sure,
to
so-
somebody,
Yep.
and they have my back, versus I'm in a pick a number, someone will go back, let me put a ticket. There's this weird shift because even, Tim Martell, we were talking about earlier,
Right.
his company, he's been saying he's been growing. So it's
And
it's
we-
interesting.
Well, Hunter and I spoke directly about that this week, and for people out there that are interested, they're at basically a 2-to-1 client to employee ratio, which you're not going to get from the big companies. You're just
Yeah,
not.
that's
I mean, it's
highly
a lot of
unusual.
attention. Each rep is
Yeah, and because
spending
he,
a lot of
he
time
can do
with
a
you.
lot of full, as Troy and I have always talked, we have PCG Digital might have more because we do more just focusing on digital and
Right.
paid search and social media
Right.
and some consultative work where he can really go deep. And like he always says, I go deeper with my
Yeah, he-
clients
he
because I
says
can
it all the
do
time with us.
I can
right,
do
that's
the-
in every phone call.
All about
he says
depth.
that.
and that works for him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'm really proud of him and excited for him because everything that he's doing, I'm looking at it going, ooh, I could do something like that. Or I turn around, if I'm not, I'll tell dealers, I don't do this stuff, but
Yeah.
if you're going to look at anybody, talk to them because I trust them.
Yeah, we've gotten better at the competitor thing too. 5 years ago we were horrible at it, but we had we created a sales funnel for technician recruiting on our website. So technician recruiting checklist. You submit your information and get the checklist. So we get some weird leads from time to time, and I got one from a quote unquote competitor out in California, a gentleman by the name of Gary Lewis, who's been doing this for years and years, but it's small. He kept it small.
Right.
He's like, I don't want to expand. we had an hour-long conversation the other day because I just replied to him, instead of what's this guy doing, trolling around our website. So I said, hey, Gary, it's nice to meet you. Give me a call sometime and we'll bounce some ideas off each other and just have a conversation. So he called, and neither one of us really knew what the hell we were going to talk about, but we just got to talking, and a lot of different stuff came out, shared clients and ways we could help each other out.
There's so much that we can do to help each other instead of trying to cut each other's throats.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's just silly.
Right.
I always
silly.
because way back, I think I said this one time, but way back when we first were doing these small little roadshow workshops, Paul Potratz, who has the Potratz agency, great guy.
Yeah.
People would say, why would you have him? He's a competitor. And we would laugh. I'm like, well, how are we competing? He's up in upstate New York. We're down in Jersey. And I said, we used to laugh. We said, well, wait a minute. At that time, we each had some, whatever number of clients we had. And I said, man, there's 18,000 or 17,000 new dealerships. I said, if you had 1,000 and I had 1,000, we'd all be doing cartwheels, and there's still 16,000 for everyone else. And we just laughed.
Private jets for everybody.
There's no competition. Very rarely do I run across, even for Troy, very rarely do I run across somebody who says, I hate Troy, I'm leaving. We're going to come to you.
Right, yeah.
It just doesn't, you don't have that. You have the big conglomerate type of, or bigger companies where people have tried them.
Right.
I don't compete. It's not like, it's you or Dealer World.
Right.
I don't think I've ever run across that where it's you two.
Right.
Same thing with Tim Martell. We don't go head to head where it's like, I'm debating between you or you. It's either you like that size and you've built a relationship. You've met Tim and you like Tim.
Right.
And you like his style. Or you've met us, or you've met Troy, and you go, we like you.
Right. Well, and that feeds perfectly into our last sponsor, who's Jason Gardner and Tacobi, where it's just totally different client base and really a totally different product as well.
Sure.
And we talked about it when we were lining up sponsors for the show. We're like, wait, can we have two marketing can we have two advertising agencies as sponsors? Then we started thinking about the things they actually offer, and we're like, dude, it's night and day here between these two companies.
Right. Yeah. Dealer World offers part of what they do, but it's apples
Jason's
and oranges,
entire
basically.
focus. And now, we talk about Tacobi, who obviously, if you're engaged on social media or if you're on the dealership side of things, you know who they are.
You might see Jason Gardner on Facebook. You might see him.
So, but Jason's really heavy on the tech side of stuff. When I had Dan on here, he said, I can't even keep up with it. I'm selling it, and I'll see something new in there when I'm presenting a dealer, and I have to make it up and be like, "Oh shit, I didn't even know where this was in here."
Right, on the fly.
On the fly, right,
stuff.
right. So he is. You can tell he's working towards a point where he wants to be a true CRM, because a lot of times that's the competition for a Facebook lead generation company,
and his frustration.
How does this tie? Right. How does this tie into my CRM? And then the CRM can be in direct competition if it's one, not functioning properly, or more often than not being used properly by the BDC department or whoever's handling the lead at the dealership. And it makes you look bad. You get into the whole accountability thing.
Right.
So I you can see that's where Jason's geared towards, and he's talked about it before, just turning Tacobi into not just a lead generation software and communication software and AI, but also a full functioning CRM.
Are we out there? Are we recruiting people for
We're
him
actually
now,
recruiting. We are working with Evan Driscoll right now, recruiting BDC salespeople.
Now?
Yeah, right now. We're not going on site.
Oh, okay.
All remote.
Oh, okay.
Just screening people. Evan. So they hired Evan between when John was first out there. John Huey did an on-site campaign for them.
Right.
They hired Evan as BDC manager.
Okay.
And
so it's a handoff
I spoke
to
to him. Yeah, and I spoke to Evan and he gets it, and he's like, look, I manage. I'm not sitting here handling leads. I can handle the interviews, and he knows what he's looking for. So it'll be, we try our best to lay out expectations when we do remote recruiting, because it's not the same as us being out there on site. But because of costs and sometimes ego, everybody thinks or wants to try it themselves. And a lot of times it doesn't work out. But, we try to make sure that, hey, we're not just throwing warm bodies at you. You know what you need to do when they get there.
So good company, Tacobi,
sure.
TECOBI.com. To get a hold of Dealer World, it's mydealerworld.com. So great companies, great sponsors.
Absolutely.
Get ready for a bump.
All right, so you're going to daddy-daughter dance.
I do, yes. So live at 5 probably isn't going to happen tonight. I think I might go live with my daughter Charlotte just for 5 minutes to say hi to everybody. And,
Oh, that's a good idea.
and everybody can say hi to Charlotte. She'll like
Daddy-daughter dance tomorrow, right?
Tonight.
Oh, that's tonight.
Yep.
That's why he's leaving.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, we're she got a new dress. I'm
Awesome.
not doing the dance off for the second year in a row.
What? Come on, dude.
And it's starting to get I don't love
Have
dancing, right?
Have a couple drinks and take an Uber.
I don't love I know, seriously. That's the only way I'm doing the dance competition. I don't love dancing, and it's just going to continue to be a problem because it's not just my wife now. Now it's my daughters love to dance. Now I got our 1-year-old sitting there doing this when the Frozen 2 soundtrack
Did you see the
comes
video
on.
at my house with her dancing?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm screwed. At some point, I'm just gonna have to start dancing more.
Suck it up,
Take a
man.
class.
Yeah.
Go eat two of the cupcakes and go on a sugar high and get out there.
Yeah, right.
All right, one thing I do,
All right, what do you want to
I
talk
want to
about?
get your opinion. Oh, first of all, I want to mention something I mentioned to you outside. Those of you listening, watching on the replay, whatever. Last night I watched a portion of Lopes Live, Frank Lopes, and his interview with Jim Ziegler. And at some point during the thing, and Jim had showed me this like 2 years ago. Him and I were out somewhere together. It's those of you, write this down. It's called Ghostry, Ghost, ERE.com. And I sent it to Troy, and he said he was going to look into it. It's really good for Troy. He should have it. But all you guys should have it. If you're at stores, you need this. Upload it to your desktop or laptop. It's called Ghostry.com. Then go on your site, and immediately down in the right-hand corner, it'll show you everything that your webmaster, whoever your web provider, whoever built your website, is tracking off your site. You know, if Google's not there, then you got a whole big issue. So immediately when I saw this, I pulled up our site. I downloaded it. Took me 30 seconds. Downloaded the app on my desktop. Then I went to our site, and it showed what is tracking, and it's all legit. They did it on the show live last night, and there were some big surprises from what the OEM who's built, the site or a Cars.com site or whatever, what they're tracking in terms of potentially your customer's information, which then is potentially could be sold to somebody else. So I would really encourage that. It's free. It's mind-blowing. But Ghostery.com, I would suggest you guys get it, look at your site, see what's happening. You should at the very least know what's happening. And then every site you pull up, it'll show every site. It's really an amazing thing. But so I would suggest you guys take a look at that at least.
There you have it.
Yes, sir. All right.
Ton of information on Car Gurus. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
We got 13 minutes.
Okay, yeah. That's fine.
You hitting it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Car Gurus.
Okay.
Okay, big thing. Stock goes down 25% in a day. Information comes out that they're selling customer information. They're selling it to, I guess, Carvana.
Yes.
Big mess. Carvana, I mean, that could be an hour's worth of discussion. But
That's why I said you have 13 minutes.
so Car Gurus it did a webinar. Matter of fact, I think it's happening right now.
Yeah, they're trying to get ahead of it.
Right.
Or behind it, in this case.
Third-party lead providers, without question, this is nothing new that anyone hadn't said before or thought before. It really has become. They've all become drug dealers to car dealers. It's really epidemic because the decision of I'm spending $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is per month. I know I'm getting this per month. If I pull that out, what the hell am I going to do? I'm going to lose those sales. My competitor's going to pick up those sales. What am I going to do? Whereas we know, intellectually, we all have to be able to understand that if we took all the money spent on third-party lead providers and then spent that on Google, even Google AdWords or whatever internally, and did a better job internally, we would, if at least stay even and lower our costs. I mean, why aren't we taking, as dealers, why aren't we taking that money on third-party lead providers and name it, whatever they are, TrueCar, whomever it is. And I'm not a hater because they do provide value. But when they start selling your shit to somebody else, that's a problem.
Okay. So we have to hear what Car
What they have
Gurus
to
is
say.
going to say
Right.
before we say anything, because
That's a good point.
some of the articles, some people are going, well,
Yeah,
where
it's
the hell?
opinion.
Well, it's opinion, but also on a website, and people are going, who the hell's this? It's not as
Right.
if it was Wall Street Journal or somebody like that or
Right.
whatever. So we got to.
Right.
I will wait to reserve judgment of now the potential of saying they did this.
Right.
Okay.
Allegedly.
I don't think their stock price falling had anything to do
It
with
didn't.
that.
It didn't.
That
No.
was
Right.
just missing earnings or
Yeah, yeah.
expansion or whatever.
Correct.
So.
Okay, yeah, it jumped the next day
Yeah.
or 2 days later
So
or whatever it was.
It's fine. So again, anytime you're missing marks, you could,
Right.
Apple goes down, they miss. Oh, we thought you were going to make $20 bazillion and you only made $19 bazillion, so you're a
Right.
failure. And you're like, oh,
Right.
I like that whole stuff always
Right.
gets me. Anyway,
Right.
third parties. I think it's both. I think that part of it was we could outsource in some ways, that we didn't have to really focus on our SEO and focus on our own marketing because, we had these folks over here. I don't know if saying I'm going to take it all off the table wins, because when we did our automotive shopper survey, first place, if I'm looking for a new car, is going to the manufacturer so I can build my car and see what's
Right.
going on. The second place was I went to third party to see who in my area has that car.
Right.
Third place I went to was a website.
Right. That's the problem I see.
Right? Pre-owned cars, the first place was third-party sites. Why? Because
Right.
they spend bazillions of dollars
Right.
on
Right.
TV,
Right.
Super Bowl commercials,
Right.
telling you
Right.
if you're looking for a car,
Right.
it's easy.
And you don't want to
We're-
get screwed.
We're going to help you.
Right.
Okay. So, Car Gurus has whatever it is, 60 million visits a month?
Yeah.
Cars.com has 20 to 30 million. So why wouldn't you want your inventory there? Now, someone's going to say, well, they're taking my inventory and they're putting it there. It's called advertising. Well, they're selling me back my leads. They're advertising your inventory out there. Now, you can get into how much it costs and all the semantics. That's not what we're talking about. But
No.
it's taking your inventory and putting it where eyeballs are. It's no different than going on commercials, and it's no different than Facebook. And yes, there are people out there saying, I can sell more because if you give me that money, my strategy is going to work. Sure. In my market, if I really get a dealer that's really focusing on their brand message and they trust me for marketing and they have a big footprint in town and they're worried, and when everybody's thinking of getting a car in that area, they think you, because you've built up over 5 years this
Right.
I am the solution, and you have great processes, so I can do testimonials. And
Right.
all of a sudden, if you get that pivot, right? I had one independent client who he says, we've worked with him now, and he's like, I'm now at 65% referral or repeat business.
Wow.
Right? 65% of the people we sell to every month either referred to us or repeat business. He goes, we're keep going up. That, if you can get a new car dealer to do that, goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. If I sell correctly and I do fixed ops and I take care of my customers, why in God's name would they go anywhere else?
Correct.
So I don't need necessarily to spend so much money on cars.com to try to attract people who don't know who I am, because my local market definitely knows who I am. So could you take money off the table? But you have to also do this. I just look at it and say there's so many eyeballs out there. Now, again, I don't know all the packages, what it takes to do that, but I definitely see in people's analytics, if it's set up correctly, the problem is, again, attribution. We get into details of, yes, I give you $5,000 and then you're going to go into your analytics and say, well, I only got 20 people who came directly from cars.com. But if I look
Right.
at their analytics, if it's set up with multi-channel funnel, look at all the places times cars.com was in people's searches. They went on cars.com, then they opened up your website and they start doing business on your website. You don't see that connection if your analytics aren't set up. So you get, mfcars.com, when in reality, it's the one they went on cars.com. Then they saw you on social. Then they clicked on an ad. Then they typed your name in, and you're going, oh, they typed my name in direct. Oh, look at that. My TV's really working. And you're going, no, knucklehead. They were looking at cars. Now, you all
Right.
have to have that. Now, if you spent cars.com money or Auto Trader money or third-party money, wherever,
Right.
and you don't see them in your multi-channel funnels, so that means nobody was on there and they did at one time they didn't see it. Okay,
Right.
that's a different conversation.
Yes.
But the one thing that you got to think about is you were saying AdWords. We've listened to phone calls. The phone calls, probably 20 to 30% of the phone calls that are generated by your new car campaigns for for new cars are for sales. Most of them are service. Why? Because your service department isn't doing a good job updating people what the status of the call is. So they just type in your name here, click on the ad, call you up. What's the status of my car?
Oh, yeah, good point.
Right?
Right.
95%, let's say, I'll do it less. Let's say 80%, just for numbers. 80% of the phone calls coming from Auto Trader about cars. They ain't on there for service.
Correct.
They ain't on there to say, hey, where's the number for Bob? Is Bob still working? I got to talk.
Right.
Cars.com. So the phone calls, richer. Clicks over there, richer. They're on there looking at your inventory. So to say they're not good, now you can debate saying, well, Car Gurus is taking my inventory and making decisions about if this is a good deal or not.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You can say True Car is saying, I'm looking at market pricing. But, you know, for a long
I don't know that bothers me. As a dealer, I don't know.
unless you're not a good deal. But right.
Yeah,
but
right.
then
Good
same
point.
thing. You'll argue with True Car saying it's $325 per sale, right? If I sell a car, I give you that much money.
Right.
Your cost per
Whatever.
sale for AdWords is way higher than that, but but nobody's telling you what that is, so you think it's a savings.
Good
And
point.
then you're turning around. Like I could look at, well, you got this many clicks. Well, how many of those clicks or calls that you have to go through to sell a car? When you add that number up, it's probably twice or three times, and you're going, oh, well, I guess True Car is not that bad.
Yeah.
Now, listen. All distribution, but third-party leads from the manufacturer. Some dealers will say they're horrible. Nothing. I get all of these leads and I don't sell anything. Other ones will
That
say,
seems to be universal.
but other ones will say these are really great leads. It's
Depending
all
on the
your
OEM. So.
Also your process.
Well, yeah.
Because
I guess
if you
so.
mentally go, these are horrible leads, well, what do you think your
right,
approach
they're
is going to be?
horrible leads. We'll wind it up with this, and this is, I don't know. Is this anecdotal that it seems as though you turn in your cancellation notice with whomever, right? And all of a sudden the Glenn Ross leads come across, now you're getting sent between, if you're day 3 into your 30-day cancellation, now all your 20% closing deals leads come.
I think
you
what
think that's
happens is-
anecdotal? There's no research to back that up?
Not that I know of. I hear the opposite. I hear people say, well, I canceled it and I didn't see any difference. And I'm going, well, you won't, because the people who are buying now have been on AutoTrader or Cars.com or third-party leads for the last 60 days looking at your stuff.
Okay.
Talk to me in 90 days.
Right. So the wizard doesn't go behind the curtain and say, oh, now I'm going to crank up the good leads in the store
It's
to try
perception.
to get them back.
It's whatever you want to see. If all of a sudden you say, well, I canceled them and now they have great leads. I'm like, no, it's just or this
Okay.
isn't hurting me. In 120 days, you are going to see, if you don't take that money and do something else with it, you're going to get an impact.
Yeah.
I don't care. But what happens is people will take that money and do something else with it, so they don't see. They go, well, I'm still selling enough cars. Well, yeah, that went down, but because I moved the money, this went up, so I still have more opportunities to sell.
Gotcha.
That's fine. Versus if I just take that money off the table and put it in my pocket, those are the ones that 90 days later go, something's wrong, I got to go back and buy it.
Yep.
It's because you put your inventory in front of eyeballs. There's a reason why, again, 20 million people are on that site every single month. So people in your area are looking for it.
Right.
They're looking for inventory. And if you show up and you have a good price, they're going to come to your website. Now, if your website gives them a good experience and there's no games, and when I submit something to you, you get back to me quick, right? We've been talking to our clients about removing obstacles. I mean, simple things like, is this car available? Check availability. Why do I have to fill out a form?
Right.
Why can't there be a chat?
That's right, man.
Right? Schedule a test drive. Why the hell is there a form? Why can't you answer my question now?
We've done in our business. You got to make it easy for people to apply for a job.
Right.
You can't have them jump through
But
3
think about it.
screens.
If somebody said more information, why doesn't a chat pop up?
Right. Right.
Why do I need a form that somebody has to chase you now versus answer me right now?
Yeah, I'd jump right off that site. If
Right.
that was
So I think third parties are an easy thing to beat up because, again, digital's evolving. Back in the day, they were lead. We generate leads because that's what you wanted to hear. And they did. But then all of a sudden it became, well, if I send in leads, now my phone's bombarded. I don't want that yet, but I'll get the information. Then it was pivot to how many eyeballs are on there and the cost per VDP view, which is true. It's your advertising. And it's just, what are you trying to get from them? But if you just take a step back and say, why do I advertise in that newspaper? Because of circulation and views. Why am I on those shows or times or that? because of eyeballs. Well, if there's all these eyeballs on people in Cars.com, third party, Car Gurus, Auto Trader, then what do I want out of it? But again, it's more the fact of how many people saw my inventory.
Right.
That's what I want to know. How many people saw my inventory? And listen, if you're priced out of the market, if your pricing is crazy, Auto Trader's not going to help you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you have crappy photos, Auto Trader ain't going to help you. I don't care what placement you have. If I come to your website and it's hard for me to maneuver, or if I reach out to you, and don't blame Auto Trader if your processes stink. Don't blame it if you have a convoluted website, if you have 4 different calls to action, or you're like, here's your price, here's the dealer price, here's today's price, click for this other. Like, if you want to throw hoops, you're blaming the wrong person. And it was funny because there was a dealer at NADA who said to me, a couple of them actually, twice, said there's nothing new in digital. I guess we just got to finally just figure it all out and do it. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I guess we're running out of things to buy and people to blame. Meaning like we got to do this now. So it's easy to blame third parties, but if you can't answer the phone, right? You said, think about this.
Yeah.
You told me earlier you were trying to get a hold of a dealer.
Yeah.
And the phones just rang.
No, I went. I have 15 minutes. I tried to
think
call the
about
dealership.
that. If I was on Auto Trader and I called the number off of Auto Trader, now you're going to say Auto Trader stinks.
Good point.
And I'm like, dude, you're not answering the phone.
Yeah, well, and I eventually got him by submitting a lead form and waiting for them to call me. And I told her, and I was nice about it, and she was very apologetic. But I said, look, not for nothing, I'm not a customer.
But what if I was?
What if I was a customer? What do you think
But if
would have
that's
just happened?
happening
Mercedes-Benz dealership.
But think about that. If that's happening, it's happening all the time.
Yeah, for
Same
sure.
thing. Or I submitted when I told you there was a marketing. I saw something wrong, so I sent a lead form to the person and they send me a response back about I want to help you with your car purchase.
Yeah.
And it's just this.
Well,
then you're going, listen, you're not even paying attention, but then you're going to blame Auto Trader or blame somebody else about the leads, but you're not answering the phone or you're not answering questions or you're playing games or the only thing you're saying is, when are you coming in?
And I've kind of seen it evolve from the beginning of the year. I think it is poking holes, like you said, and looking for problems because I think it really roots back to a cost issue where I've seen a lot of clients and dealers talk about the insane price bump that they get from Car Gurus on not just this year, but on an annual basis.
Sure.
And I'm not talking about.
Well, but
we had to raise expenses 5%.
But you got to remember is once you become a public company, you are now a slave to Wall Street.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, your shareholders.
But I mean, I hear budgets that for other people's projects, friends of mine, stuff like that. And I'm like, how much are they spending? Holy God, to do what? What in God's name are you generating off of that?
Right.
So I just think that it's an easy thing today. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. That'll come out in the wash. If you're doing bullshit practices, then you should get smacked in the head. Right. Eventually something comes out. But same thing with Carvana. You want to blame Carvana over this. Like the reason why Carvana wins, now whether they win long term, they're winning certain people from you because they're making it easy to buy a car. Go read their reviews. I've said this to dealers all the time. Go read their reviews. So many times are they saying, well, it's not exactly the car I wanted, but.
Right. Well,
I have friends who bought cars. And
Did you
they
see
say, well,
Troy's post with all the reviews?
Yeah. But the point is that they're basically saying, I settled for a car that was 80% of what I wanted because it was 100% easy.
Yeah.
And so I say to dealers, you have the exact car that you have tons of cars that you can swap people into. You got to focus on easy.
Yeah. Well,
so stop bitching about Carvana's taking stuff. Look in the mirror and say, dude, you don't answer the phone.
Right.
You are not
the
willing
small stuff,
to
right.
which is really big stuff.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Right? So if you're going to say, hey, now again, it's pre-owned. Great. Pre-owned is easier than new. That's why Carvana's not doing it. But the mere fact is that they're willing to, and they're marketing into the pain point. Why aren't you marketing into the pain point of saying, hey, I know it's confusing about buying a car? Or why aren't you saying on your BDC to somebody saying, listen, by the time you've gotten my stuff, you probably got 2 cars from me and you probably got 4 cars from other people in the marketplace. I know it's confusing. Let me help you.
Yeah.
Versus when you want to come in. You have any more questions? When you come, like that, if you start marketing that, we make it easy, we make it fast, we let you do it online, we're here to help you. Like that's what Carvana's doing. The other one, forget Carvana. Go look at CarMax. CarMax never talks about price. They always shoot the whole lot, and it looks huge. And so that's the Jedi. I have inventory. And everything they talk about is the experience of buying a car. We make it easy. We make it simple, in and out. Now, go read CarMax. They have issues too. They have all the problems. Everybody does.
Right.
It's the perception of marketing easy. And dealers are starting to, that's what we're working with our clients on. We're starting to say, that's what you have to market. It's not the price.
Right.
If half of the people out there could care less what car they're in, or they all think they're all the same. Like my wife goes, what's that? Is that a that? Is that a that? I'm like, no, that's a that. They go, they all look the same. Right. So it goes back to, we have to sell the experience. You have to market the experience of how you're going to take care of people and make it different. And then you got to deliver on it. So you can't not answer the phone. You can't not answer questions. You can't waste people's time. You can't put things on your website to say, hey, give us this information. Tell us all your information ahead of time. We'll make it easy. And then they walk up and like, hey, what brings you here? And you're like, why did I just waste 2 hours on your site, right? So there's a lot of this, and it is pivoting. It is changing because you see dealers who are successful because they're thinking this way. It's just a lot of dealers are still, it's easier to point fingers outside. That's why marketing, it's marketing. Instead of, dude, you're not answering the phone. That's an easier conversation to cancel you from afar than look at you in my dealership and say, dude, you got to pick it up. Right. That's a hard conversation.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's sort of, this whole third party thing. I just think, like I said, if they got in trouble, whatever, they're doing something wrong. But let's just not blanket kick the dog because
good point.
Everybody has some skin in the game of, Cars.com works for people because they have good processes. Cars.com doesn't work for good because you may not have process or your expectations of what it is. So it is. It's just another punching bag. Yeah. So that's that.
All right, let's wind this thing up. Hey, one thing I want to say, millionaire producer Adam, we kind of kept him out of the fray today. It's because our guest is so smart. We didn't need Adam, but. Adam, the millionaire producer from All Systems Go AV. Adam, we appreciate
Thank you, Adam.
So much, dude.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, Glenn, for those delicious pastries.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. He's been in there.
He's in there. He's in a sugar coma
What am
right
I?
now. I fell asleep.
I've been asleep back here for the past hour.
All right. Hey, so upcoming shows, we're going to upgrade the microphones in here and the, what are these called?
Booms.
Yeah, booms.
Boom stand, mic stands.
Right, and we're going to put a TV up here on the wall. So
big time.
Yeah, we're making so much money. We're going to do all that stuff. We have a little trouble with YouTube right now. We got the intro music, which, we agreed with Jan Magnuson is the artist's name. He's from Stockholm.
Okay.
And I saw him on Twitter, and I followed him, and I liked his stuff, and his main... It actually is a podcast called a Rebel Podcast. So, and I love that song, so I asked him for permission. We got it. We got all the templates. YouTube sent us a copyright infringement thing, so we're
fighting that,
battling with YouTube. So, like Joe said, we're getting
big
somewhere,
now.
man.
They noticed
right?
us.
They noticed
YouTube jumped out at us, so we don't lose our monetization there. Look at dude.
Thanks, man.
All right.
No bullshit.
Always
I
fun.
like you so much, and we like you so much, and it's just you're so smart, and you're such a super nice person.
You're the best. 20-second plug time.
Yeah.
20-second plug.
Yeah. Tell us.
How
should people get a hold of you?
Oh, you can get a hold of me easy on all social media. It's just Glenn Pasch. Easy to find me. Company is pcgdigital.com. So if you're out there and you need some marketing help, we are the ones I think are a great partner for you. And then also if you are in fixed ops, if you're interested in coming down to Fort Lauderdale, one-day fixed ops marketing boot camp, you can go to brianpasch.com to find the information for that. And then we also have
March
18th. Okay. And then in May, I can't remember exactly the dates. That's our Digital Marketing Strategies Conference. You can go to digitalmarketingstrategies.org for our conference in Napa, 3-day event. Always good.
Right.
Always
he's
fun.
a great follow on Twitter. Always daily
amusement,
positive tweets. And,
I try to. That's my new one. Is every morning when I get up, I send out something.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool.
I like it.
I learned from someone else. There's another person, Amy Landino, who I follow, and every morning she sends out good morning, good life, or something like that.
Nice.
Just every morning, just something positive.
Yeah,
so I
nice
said,
to
I'm going to
see.
do that.
And son, always good to see you. I love you. And
do
when
Patty
am I going to
Dan.
see you next? What are you doing? What are we doing?
Pinewood Derby.
Oh yeah, Pinewood Derby.
Yes. The Pinewood Derby.
Yeah, we got to win this year. We took fourth
yeah,
at
right?
regionals
Yeah.
last year for
And that
all
got
of,
you
all of
into the
Maryland
next
and
thing.
Delaware. We could have gone to nationals. We weren't going to go to New York City for nationals.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, we got myself and my father-in-law got our work cut out for us because we got to do better this year. But
Yeah.
we changed a few things. Lower profile on the car, weight placement's a little different. Explaining to my daughter as we go along while I'm doing things. She's pretty sharp, so she picks
Yeah.
up on all the little
Yeah.
tricks. I have to explain to her friction and the aerodynamics of the car. Otherwise, you're just cheating, right?
Yeah.
So that will be
All
the
right.
next time I see you.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, sir.
Off
All
we
right.
go.
Pleasure as always.
Pleasure as
Take
always,
care,
man.
everybody.
Love
See
you.
ya.
Peace. Ooh, I gotta pee.
Me too.
You will never be a star,
Good stuff.
but a rebel, always a rebel you are.